All right. Welcome everyone for joining us today. I wanted to let everyone know that we have Marcus and Heather on Zoom joining us. They were unable to be here in person, but we do have enough to have a quorum so we can proceed. Um, do I have a, before we begin, goodness gracious, we will open it up for public comment on adoption of the agenda. That's our first agenda item. If there is public comment at this time on that agenda item. Okay, seeing as there is none, we will close public comment. Is there any discussion from the board on this agenda item? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for the adoption of the agenda as submitted.
Do we want a flexible agenda on that?
That was a question because in the notes, it states that it is a flexible. So do we need to state flexible?
It state that it's a flexible agenda and adopt it as a flexible agenda.
Okay, I make a motion to the adoption of the agenda as a flexible agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion by Ms. Miller, a second by Ms. Sniting. Any further discussion from the board? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, at this time, will everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, at this time, we will open it up for public comment. This is public comment time for anything that is not on the agenda. If you wish to discuss something that is, or make public comment about something that is on the agenda, you will have the opportunity when we get to that agenda item. Please make sure if you come forward to speak that you state your name for the record and write your name on the piece of paper there so that we get the spelling right. And remember that you have 3 minutes for your public comment.
Allison Gray. I want to thank Marty Swisher for what he said and what he accomplished at the previous meeting. I want to thank Martha Better for the superb letter that she wrote to the editor. There is no way I could ever have expressed myself as eloquently as she did. And I want to thank David Burns for making the right decision. I really do appreciate it from him. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Can you push the button? There we go.
Hi,
Thank
I'm
you.
Danita Anderson. I just wanted to make a comment. We don't have a calendar and there's a lot of changes. And so I just want some consideration to maybe not having a calendar change. Plus, it's feeling a little late if we have a calendar change because I know people are already talking about plans and if we adjust things.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to our one online and you can go ahead and have a seat and we'll take our one online and then come back.
Hi, this is Joshua Lang. I noticed a few special board meetings ago. One of the questions you guys had was about the moving to a 4-day school week, and you were supposed to come back with what kind of information and whether that savings the district could receive through that. I have not seen any of that information in any of the meetings. Are we to expect that's to come? And we'd be able to see if that is a savings to the district or not.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Maxine Cahill. Not on the agenda, and I'm not sure when the last time it may have actually hit the agenda, but I believe it's imperative that the school board addresses the elephant in this room, or actually the lack thereof the elephant. Actually, maybe it's not an elephant, but it's the Minden Rattlers or Pinion Hills Mustangs or the Douglas High Carson Valley Tigers. Where are they participating in this meeting in person or on Zoom? What about the Pavalou Panthers, Garnerville Cougars? How about Scarcelli Cheetahs or the missing CC Manili Mountain Lions? What about our Jacks Valley Eagles? And what about the presence of an Aspire Phoenix this afternoon? I'm not going to address the Lake schools. I'm certain they're going to roll in online later. But I believe that there is something that needs to be done to increase the parent and or guardian buy-in and participation for more than just one meeting or one crisis event. Just considering the enrollment figures that were presented earlier this month for the 25-26 school year, if we look at just the 4 schools that are considered for consolidation, the 4 elementary schools, we're looking at 1,196 students just in those 4 schools. If you look at the 2 middle schools, just the 6th and 7th graders in those 2 schools that are going to be impacted by everybody's going to be impacted, there's 734. That's almost 2,000 students that are going to be directly impacted. Everybody's going to get an impact. But where is the buy-in from the parents and the guardians to come and fill this room, not to tell you how to do your job, but to be part of the solution? As recently as this weekend, I had conversation with parents that their schools are not on the list of consolidated schools. And they're like, oh, I feel so bad for you. And I'm like, no, your school is going to be impacted too, even if it's not on the list. You need to be part of the solution. But I've also spoken to homeowners that don't realize that this is going on because they're of an older age and they don't know that this is all going on. I am guilty. My household has not participated in the school board for the decade that we've lived here. But right now we are mere months away from schools shuttering their doors, possibly forever. We already have teachers' names identified out on lists and staff members who are going to be cut. And everyone in the school district will be touched. So therefore, I'm saying for a future agenda item to consider is how do we increase parent involvement and ensure that vital information is accurately getting out to parents, guardians, and community members. We have a lot of ways that we get information through as parents. We have Parent Square, we have emails, Infinite Campus, text message, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube channel, the district app. There might be more, but there's a lot of information being out there and it's not all completely lined up. Last thing to say is there are 1,000 things going on each home. Maybe if we use some words like our school district will be closing schools and staff will be fired, maybe some terminology that is straight and to the point might get some attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more online? Okay, any more public comment from our audience? All right, we will close public comment at this time. And we will move to agenda item number 3, the resignation of Trustee Dave Burns. Mr. Alvarado, should I read this to the public before we have a discussion?
You're not required to,
Okay.
and it has health-related information in it.
Okay. All right. Is there any discussion from the board? All right, then we will open it up for public comment at this time. All right, any online? Okay, seeing as there is none, we will close public comment. Do I have a motion from someone on the board?
I'll make a motion that we approve the resignation of Trustee David Burns.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Ms. Knighting and a second by Ms. Miller. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye. Sorry, I think it was delayed.
That's okay, thank you. All right, motion passes unanimously. I didn't get a pen. All right, on to agenda item number 4, Board Policy 552, Intra-District Open Enrollment and Transportation Assistance. Ms. Mitchell.
Hi, thank you. So this is the first reading of the Intra-District Open Enrollment and Transportation Assistance Board Policy. This was created in alignment with Assembly Bill 533 and the most recent draft from the Department of Education. So there might be changes coming, but we need to get our initial policy in place so that we are opening open enrollment in alignment with the state timeline. Do you have any questions on the bill?
Ms. Knighty.
So there's still changes. If I am reading this correctly, the state will give us a specific amount for transportation reimbursement. And once we've hit that amount, we don't go over that. That is just set in stone. Is that how it works?
Yes, we're required to offer it, but we're not required to provide any funding. So it's just up to whatever the state provides based on the prioritization specified in the document.
Have we been given a number yet, or they're still working through that?
No, it's statewide. And so in the work groups that we've had so far, there's recognition that there's probably not enough funding to go around. So the prioritization is important. And it does say in here, which is important to families to that point, that if the funding is insufficient, this is page 2 at the bottom, to serve all applicants within that specific priority level. So if our requests from students going from a lower star to a higher star rating exceed the funding, then we default to the order in which their applications were received.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question. Does the funding depend on when we ask for it? Because I heard that some of the other districts have already done their open enrollment, and I'm wondering if they will have access to the funding before us, and if that is the case, do we need to do our open enrollment before February in the future?
Not based on anything I've learned so far. The guidance I was given was that the grant will open in March, and so we're closing ours on February 20th so that we can get the figure from transportation for how much this would cost so that we have those numbers ready by March 1st.
Thank you.
Ms. Miller.
So as other drafts come in from the state, are we going to have to approve those updates, or is that going to be something that we're going to need to? Are the updates going to have to go through us, or are we going to be able to just update the board policy based on the new step?
It depends on if they add to the board policy as written or if they change something that we've specified.
Okay. And then another question is, what about our kids who are currently on a variance? How does this affect them for open enrollment if they're, because I believe every year they have to apply for the variance, but they're already established at that other school outside of their designated home zone.
So open enrollment is permanent. So children on a variance would need to apply this first year and they would not need to keep applying.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? All right, we'll open it up for public comment at this time. I know, it's okay. We have one online.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Shannon for the record. I just kind of wanted to call out, I know this is a preliminary draft, but just wanted to make sure the board kind of did see this. In section 2, capacity determination, I think that might become a slippery slope because no required ratios, students per teacher, per station, or per para is listed. Instructional model is also undefined and kind of discretionary. Again, just with the situation we're in, we might want to kind of delineate these different numbers and or definitions because it allows capacity to change without clear public justification of what's kind of going on in those scenarios. Again, there's just no definition really calling out what is a legal justification as well to make certain changes that are listed here. And then secondary, transportation rules undercut access. So in section 4, transportation assistance eligibility, also undefined as no other viable form of transportation. And also it excludes families who technically have transportation but cannot reliably use it. Again, I just want to call it out because I know the situation that we're all in right now. And I think maybe having some of these definitions laid out will help set us up for success of the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would
Any
you like me to
further-
speak to those?
Let's finish public comment first. Any further public comment online? Okay. Any from the audience? All right, we will close public comment at this time. Ms. Mitchell, if you would like to address those questions and concerns.
The determination of capacity and what constitutes a viable form of transportation are the two kind of big questions that have come up in state work groups. So I do think if we see current drafts, like Erin was speaking about, those would be further fleshed out. But at the moment, this was written to reflect the most recent regulation provided by the state, and the state hasn't finalized what those mean.
Do we know when
It has to be in place by July 1st, but we need to have it active by February to apply for the grant that we're required to present. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Putting the cart before the horse. All right. Yes, Ms. Miller.
So in regards to the capacity ratios, would we be able to put something in place and then take that out later if it doesn't follow the guideline so that we don't have an overcrowding at any school?
I can answer that. The district completes a class size ratio plan annually that is signed off by our association, and we will follow those class size ratios that are developed in that plan annually.
Okay, so we have a guideline. It's just not outlined necessarily in this board policy yet. So perfect.
Correct. And
Thank
the
you.
district does, as of the end of last year, we've been adding quarterly updates of what our CSR plan looks like and where we need to apply for waivers.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right. Thank you for your work on this, Ms. Mitchell. Appreciate it. All right. Number 5, agenda item number 5, board policy 816, the automated school bus stop arm camera system. Is Ms. Dwyer.
So this is also a first reading and in alignment with Assembly Bill 527. And so basically, we do have 2 buses with stop arm cameras on them, but we're not able to use them for any penalty, right? So what this bill states is that we would do a campaign with the county and the public. We would partner with the sheriff's office, and we would let the county know we have bus arm cameras, and if you violate a traffic law, you run the stop sign or pass a school bus, and when it's loading, or any of the things that people do, that that we will use that camera footage to assign a citation and penalty, and then we would collect the fine and put back into our transportation department that would fund transportation, not salaries, but fuel costs of maintaining buses, things of that sort. So again, it's a first reading. I drafted this based on the wording in the bill. And so are there any questions?
Ms. Knighting?
I understand it'll be put back into transportation. Where is the money coming from originally to fund the cameras to begin with?
So that's a good question.
Buses are considered equipment as well as cameras. So we would use capital project dollars to fund the cameras. I've already had multiple conversations with Sheriff Coverly as well as SRO Meyer. This particular policy requires that we have one reviewer of the camera footage and a separate officer that writes the citation. And just like Ms. Dwyer said, this will go to offset costs for field trips and fuel and not wages.
And
Sorry.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I wanted to be sure this was not coming out of general fund because we literally have nothing in general fund that we can put towards this.
And we do currently have 2 buses with those cameras, right? So any funds that we could generate through those cameras, we could use to buy more cameras, right? So that's how we intend to use the funds in the beginning, I believe.
Yes, and we plan to work with our transportation department and ask the drivers, where do you most oftenly see drivers violate this particular traffic law? And then put those buses on those routes, and that will help generate revenue, but also keep our kids safe and our bus drivers safe.
Did you have a question? Ms. Did you have a question?
I was just saying, I see it happen on Genoa Lane and on Jacks Valley Road.
Okay. That was going to be my question. Is this a problem that we're having within the county?
So it depends on the area and the
Okay.
drivers that you ask. Some drivers don't encounter it, and it's probably just because their routes are in maybe outer areas or the roads are not as busy. But on Genoa, Jacks area, Centerville, we do get complaints periodically. And I do know if you talk to some of our drivers, they'll tell you it happens several times a week.
Wow. That's dangerous for our kids.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm glad that we're doing this. Good. Is there any public comment at this time on this agenda item? We have one online.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. Again, it's Shannon for the record. Apologies. I did look into this extensively ahead of time, so that's why I am making these comments. Going to section B.2 and section F.1, policy explicitly states that the system's initial and ongoing costs are primarily funded through civil penalties. So what happens if violation revenue exceeds or falls short of cost? I guess just having like that contingency plan going forward, because again, the state we're in, I just want to make sure we have thought of that. Also, vendor role is broad with limited oversight language. So what I mean here for section B.2 and section D.2 for data security, it says that the vendor is responsible for et cetera, but there is no explicit audit rights listed. There's no performance standards. And I think this really matters because the vendor handles the sensitive enforcement and location data. And without explicit oversight, provisions, accountability, it just relies heavily on contract language. And right now it's just not visible in this policy. I want to cause us the best protection and setup if you guys were to move forward. And then kind of rolling off of that, privacy protections. You have language that says such as reasonable effort and primary focus. That kind of weakens privacy assurances when the wording is reasonable effort. It leaves interpretation, I think, a little too whimsical, especially again with just everything the district is going through. So maybe just choosing different language in the policy to be able to reassure the public, our county, and we can strengthen together and build that confidence together as we go into the next new year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any further public comment? All right, we will close public comment. We have one more online. Okay.
Hi, this is Joshua Lang. I think this is a great idea. One of the things I do notice, and maybe a policy that the district may need to implement, is the times that I see is real dangerous for people who are driving by the buses while we're loading and unloading in the school parking lots. We have had that happen many times. But the problem we have is a lot of times the bus drivers are not deploying the stop signs when they're in the parking lots of the schools. And I think that should always be deployed to ensure that if they do try to drive by the buses and try to wiggle by in the parking lot, it's dangerous and they should be cited for that.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment? Okay, we will close public comment at this time. I think both of our callers have great points. That I'm hoping this is our first reading, so we can kind of take those things into consideration. And that is concerning that we have people picking up kids that are driving past a school bus at a school. That is very concerning. So yes, our drivers should be using that even at the in the parking lot, if they're ever transporting kids in any way.
I've made a note of both public comments and we will address those things.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. I appreciate that, Ms. Dwyer. Any further discussion? All right. Then we will move on to agenda item number 6, Board Policy 905. And there was a clerical error. So Board Policy 905 is the school visitor policy, and item number 7 is the Board Policy 906, which is our volunteer policy. Got a little mixed up there, but the right one is attached to the right policy number. So just want to be clear with that. All right. Ms. Dwyer, are you doing this one? Okay.
So this is a second reading. So we reviewed this. You and Superintendent Alvarado gave me feedback on some edits to make, and I made those. And so you can see those in very light blue at the bottom, 6, 7, and 8. And so I just need to be sure I captured what you guys were hoping for and ask if there's any questions.
Ms. Knighting?
I just had a concern brought to me on the 45-minute time limit for our visitors. Could we add language in there that could also be, if somebody, I don't know for what reason they would need, but for some reason there was reason to have more than 45, that we would give the site administrator authority to alter it as they saw needed. Just flexibility. Because you never know what's going to come up or why you may need that, but that way we just have flexibility in it for our site administrators.
That's an easy provision to add. So in terms of monitoring when that happens on our school site, would you want the board to have notice when we do allow visitors beyond the 45-minute, or are you comfortable with just the superintendent receiving notification?
I would be comfortable with the superintendent receiving notification, unless there was some incident that we need, that was concerning in that. But as long as they notified you, that's me. I don't know how the rest of you feel.
I had the same concern about the 45-minute limit. Sometimes unexpected things happen, or maybe a lesson is going a little bit longer. I want to make sure that our site has the oversight to be able to make those decisions if they needed more time for that visitor.
Yeah, I'd say as long as the school site administrators were aware of the situation and why, and they contacted Mr. Alvarado, there could be a performance or something that could last an hour, hour and a half. So yeah, I think something should be said about that. The site administrator would have the final say in that.
So the board can still approve this with dictating in the motion these adjustments.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Jackson or Mr. Zinke, do you have anything to add or questions?
Yeah, I have something to ask, I suppose. Is this strictly for visitors that are planning on observing a classroom or observing a faculty member or something like that? Or is this for all visitors? Obviously, there's visitors that come for assemblies or particular events during school hours that they're invited to. I know last year there was a signing day. I know there's homecoming that parents are invited to in order to see their kids do homecoming court. So is this specifically for the aforementioned observation, or is this also just visitors in general?
it is strictly for observations. This 45-minute time limit refers to people who are on campus strictly to observe. So someone who wants to come in and observe a teacher, right? That's what this is for and about. It doesn't apply to assemblies or signing days or any other activities like field day at the school, things like that. It really is just for visitors who do not have any intention to volunteer. They just want to sit in the back of the room and observe what's happening in that room.
Ms. Jackson, did you have any questions?
So I guess I would just ask, like, so for example, if a student had a therapist that wanted to come observe because heard of some behaviors in the classroom or whatever and wanted to come and observe, would that fall under this then, as well as observing teachers?
Are you asking about an outside therapist or an employee of the school district?
Yes, an outside therapist.
Yes, so this would apply.
Okay, and an inside therapist could be there as long as they want because they are a school district employee.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I just had the same concern that the others mentioned, and so yeah, I think if we just put on something to say that it's at the discretion of the administrator if there needs to be an extended time, I would agree with that.
It's Knighting.
And just along the same line, in there it also say that visitors must be accompanied at all times by an administrator. Could we maybe ask, or by a designee of a staff member who is a designee of the administrator? Just sometimes our administrators may not be able to be there that whole time, and I just want them to have the flexibility that they could maybe, assign somebody to be there for them.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, then we will open it up at this time for public comment on board policy 905. All right, seeing as there is none, we will close public comment. When we make this motion, do we need to specify the changes that we have?
If you feel like it's manageable to state it, you can, but we are on the record and everything's being recorded. So I think you could also do it as a motion to approve subject to the revisions that have been discussed by the board.
Okay.
But if you want to state with more clarity, if you feel like you can do that, then you can do it that way as well.
Okay. All right. Then who is brave enough to make this motion?
Real quick, President Wagstaff, if I
Yes,
may.
Mr. Zinke.
Is there a reason that we have a time limit? So it sounds like if we're going to have a 45-minute time limit, but then it's at the discretion of the action that's being observed or in the presence of the person that's doing the observing, the visitor in this case, maybe not having a time limit would be a better idea. And then an appropriate action could only constitute a specific amount of time. In the case that Trustee Jackson mentioned, certainly I would want an outside psychologist, maybe more access to the observation of a student or the interactions of students for the sake of a diagnosis or potential therapy, something along those lines. Even Melinda Knighting's suggestion of time. So can we just eliminate the 45-minute time limit? Is that an option?
So this is a board policy, and you have the right as a board to choose how you want this to be worded and what you want it to say. I would say, though, from an administrator perspective and from even in a specialist coming from the Inclusive Education Office, anything over 45 minutes could become disruptive to the classroom environment, disruptive to the teacher and the other students. And I would tell you as a professional, you could do an observation for 45 minutes and get a lot of data and see a lot of things. What I would suggest is that you make several 45-minute appointments to observe throughout different times of the day, not just at one time of the day, as a shot in time. So it would be my advice to have a time limit. I do like giving an administrator the ability to say, you know what, I have time today to stay for 1 hour with this parent or, you know, whatever. So, and maybe we could just say a 45 minimum time limit or something like that. But I still think there should be a time limit put on this just because of the disruption to the educational environment. And also, our administrators are very busy. And it has always been our policy, the board's policy, to have an administrator accompany a visitor, because oftentimes the administrator is best able to answer any specific questions of that visitor. Designee is a great idea, but sometimes the designee couldn't answer those questions. So there would obviously, administrator would have to have some rules with their designee of, if you can't answer that question, make sure, you know, I get that question to answer it. But yeah, we really have always liked to have an administrator present with any visitors, just because we also don't want we want people to be able to interpret what they're seeing. Not everybody who visits classrooms or observes classrooms are from education, so maybe they don't understand things that are happening in the education or in the classroom in that setting. And so it's helpful to have somebody there who can explain what's happening or why decisions are being made or why processes are being followed a certain way. So
What if we put are limited to a 45-minute time limit unless proper notice or express written consent is given for a longer time, something along those lines? Then the 45 minutes is in place, and if someone requests an hour, they can ask the administrator for an hour and 15. That keeps some guardrails in, but allows for a length of time longer than the 45 minutes. That I'm not suggesting it's arbitrary, but I think that certainly there will be times that more time would be appropriate.
So maybe something along the lines of 45 minutes or at the discretion of the administrator. Is that what you're getting at, Mr. Zinke?
I think just, limited to a 45-minute time limit unless express written consent is given for longer, something along that kind of literature.
Ms. Jansen.
So you're saying that the administrator will be there. So I don't think that if the administrator is there with the visitor, I don't think it's necessary to have it in writing, because the administrator, the visitor could say, can I have another 15 minutes? And the administrator could say yes or no.
I think that puts a lot of pressure on our administrators on the spot, because like we know our administrators are super busy.
Right.
And so they may have slotted a 45 minutes, but that's followed by, a 2-hour meeting. And
Well, 20 says
and
no.
so, right.
Yeah.
But I think giving our administrators the heads up beforehand, I think it's just a courteous thing to do for our administrators.
Yeah, but
So-
they don't know that they're going to need, if they know that they're going to need more time, I totally agree. Yeah, that if they know ahead of time, say, I'm going to be there for can I be there for an hour and a half? Then they should have it in writing.
Right.
But, sometimes just spontaneously that someone's enjoying their visit and they might ask the administrator that's there with them. How would we match that all up?
I don't have a clue.
Well, based on that logic, then you wouldn't want a time limit, right? So I think, again, just my personal belief on this, a 45-minute time limit provides the guardrails. If you know something is going to take longer, then you can get it in writing that you're going to take longer. And if it happens to take a little longer, or you're cutting in, maybe the administrator can't be there anymore, in which case this is really easy, that there's a set time limit of 45 minutes. Sorry, we need to get going. Maybe you can come back, but it definitely gives the guardrails for the visit. Otherwise, you don't need a time limit at all. So I still think if you express that you need more time ahead of time, that also gives the administrator an appropriate schedule that he or she knows they can allot for a longer amount of time on a particular day, rather than a random Tuesday that the visitor is 45 minutes and wants to go an hour and a half or whatever.
Agreed.
Agreed.
All right. Any further discussion or questions from the board? Did you have your hand up? Oh, okay. Just making sure. Okay, then. Who would like to be brave enough to make a motion?
After I get my computer.
I'll make a motion that we
Oh, okay.
approve policy 905 with the things that we discussed, with the changes that we discussed.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. Jackson, a second from Ms. Jansen. Any further discussion or questions from the board? All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, agenda item number 7, board policy 906, our volunteer policy. Ms. Dwyer.
So again, this is a second reading. I have taken the input from you and Superintendent Alvarado, and I've made the changes in blue. And so do you have any questions about the additions or edits that I made?
I know I do, but Ms. Miller.
On page 3, it talks about volunteers who are on site strictly for purpose of observing. Was that necessary? Because usually that would fall under a visitor, not a volunteer. So I'm wondering if we're going to keep that in this, should we add that same language?
So it could be a volunteer. So you could be you could be a district approved volunteer, but you're not on campus to volunteer. You're just on campus to observe. That's what that means. You could be a visitor on campus to observe, and you don't have a background check. You haven't passed the volunteer status, which is another reason why we would say administrator needs to accompany that visitor the whole time. So that is meant for a volunteer, an approved volunteer who is not there to volunteer. They're just there to observe.
Okay, so an approved volunteer could be there just as a visitor. But that's okay.
Or as an observer.
As an observer.
Yes.
Okay. And then it also states that volunteers are prohibited from supervising students, but yet on the front, they can be chaperones, which would be supervising students. So that kind of sounds.
That was one of the questions I had too. So it kind of, I'm getting ready to chaperone choir trip
Well,
tomorrow.
because like,
So
say, for instance, like
I'll be supervising kids.
walkathon, we're there at walkathon as parents, as volunteers, and it's like, oh, hey, this group of kid needs to go to the bathroom. So then we take that group to the bathroom. But then that is stating that we can't do that if we're prohibited from supervising students, but yet we're okay to be serving as chaperones.
Those are good questions. So I would say that in a school setting, there's always somebody close by, right? And chaperones was, so you have, if you're helping at field day and you take a student to the restroom, or you're on a field trip and you take a student to the restroom, right? You have a licensed teacher with you. You have administration. You have somebody with you during those times. Chaperones are different because you are on a choir or a band trip with students potentially staying in a hotel, checking on them, right? And so that this was new. This was something you had asked me to add for chaperones, and I didn't really consider that chaperones would be alone for a period of time. But I'm going to say chaperones are also, if you are in a situation where you're in a hotel, you have a licensed person with you there at all times.
Yeah,
so
the
there's
teacher or
someone,
the coach is still there.
there's always a teacher of record or a coach or a stipended. We look at those as like paid positions, are the positions of, licensure that are approved to be with students alone or to supervise students. I don't know how we can discriminate. I agree. Maybe we need to write that a little differently because it seems a little bit conflicting.
Correct. Ms. Knighting.
And maybe it could be that volunteers as chaperones only supervise students under the supervision of a school district employee.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that makes it a little more clear.
Couldn't you just say that all then for even not chaperones, but even for volunteers? Volunteers are allowed to supervise students under the direction of a school employee. So it could cover all of them.
Well, that's why they had to go through a background check so that we know they're safe to
Be with kids.
be with kids.
Yeah.
And visitors are never able to supervise because they have not gone through the background check. So that's the difference. Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Mr. Zinke, did you have any questions?
No, I just think it is important that there's some sort of disclaimer in there that it's under the supervision of the the teacher, the coach, whatever. So like a perfect example, when I was the coach of the women's golf team, when we had trips that were overnight trips, obviously I'm a male, and we would have a female chaperone that was under our direction, certainly, but there were things that we required of her that we certainly could not do, nor could we supervise that, but she was under our direction and under the advisement of the coach. So I think that's a perfect addition to this.
All right. At this time, we will go ahead and open it up for public comment regarding Board Policy 506.
Good afternoon, Dave Brady for the record. Having been a volunteer in the school district for the last decade or so, I find your first expectation makes me a little bit anxious. Never did I realize that I was supposed to be, quote unquote, a mandatory reporter, nor was I aware that if I ignored this, failure to comply with the requirements of mandatory reporting is punishable by law under NRS 432B, subsection 240. I was never made aware of any of this, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. So how are you communicating this to the volunteers when they show up?
Thank you. Any further? We have one online.
Hi there, my name is Terralyn Marino for the record. Just kind of along the same lines of what you were all talking about before. There's a part at the beginning of the policy that says, hold on, I'm pulling it up. It says that a role which requires them to have a routine interaction with students in a supervised or occasionally unsupervised basis. And then at the bottom, it has the part that says they're prohibited from supervising students. So I'm wondering if that's different, if like occasionally unsupervised means like there's somebody on site who knows the volunteers with kids and they walked away for a second, or exactly kind of what that means, or if part of that was meant to be crossed out. So I'm just wondering if there's any clarification for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Swisher.
Marty Swisher, Gardnerville resident. A couple of things. So the volunteer supervising students, I think, is a critical piece here. If it's under the direct or the direction and advisement of a DCSD staff member, which could include a coach or certified staff member. The distinction is if it's a bus driver, for example, which I love our bus drivers, but they don't have the authority to direct a volunteer, in my experience, the way that a teacher would. The teacher is the one that has the responsibility for those students when they are off the bus and doing that. So I think that idea of having direction or advice directly from the DCSE certified staff employee would be important. The second thing, back to this issue of volunteers being for observation only, I'm trying to think of a situation where we've had a volunteer come into our schools that is just observing. I was in, I help out with the Young Authors Program. I was in 3 classrooms today at Jacks Valley Elementary School. I was observing students write, and I'm helping them write. We were there for way more than 45 minutes. So I think if there's some kind of very specific clarification, because it seems like that is a unique situation. I honestly, in all the time I was in schools, I can't think we ever had a volunteer come in just to sit and watch where they weren't doing something for a teacher or something like that. So I would hope that if it's a 45-minute limit for volunteers that are just coming into the schools, helping teachers or helping classrooms, that there wouldn't be a restriction on the amount of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? All right, we will close public comment at this time. And is there any further questions or discussion to be had by the board? Ms. Dwyer?
I wanted to address the public comment about knowing our board policies and knowing what's mandated by law. And we do have a volunteer packet, and we register our volunteers, and we make sure that they get the same information that employees get about mandatory reporting per the law. So we do have a packet that addresses that with them, and they sign that they've read it and understand it. So.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Dwyer, can you just share with the board when a volunteer status expires?
Our volunteers are good for 5 years. So they have to go through the background check process. And then in 5 years, we start sending them about 6 months in advance. We start sending them reminders that their status is about to expire. And we keep a current list of who is volunteering. We often will get volunteers who want to go on one field trip with their child, and then we don't see them again. So we keep track of people who are actively volunteering in our schools in those kind of one and dones. But again, that status lasts for 5 years. So every 5 years, an employee will have to be background checked.
Okay, thank you.
I also want to clarify for the board, at the point a volunteer is critiquing the performance or conduct of an employee at a school, that's when they become an observer.
So only an employee. If they're helping out, like Mr. Swisher said, in the classroom, helping with students and critiquing students' work, that's a volunteer, correct?
Correct.
So that would not fall under the 45-minute timeline.
That's right.
It's
But
only if they are
critiquing,
critiquing and observing a teacher.
correct.
Okay.
Okay, so along those same lines that now we're obviously into the definition of a volunteer versus a visitor, is there a moment that a volunteer is only a visitor? So if I've passed all of my paperwork to be a volunteer, but I want to just be a visitor for the day, obviously I'm able to be there as a volunteer in that capacity, but I'm deciding to only be there as a visitor. Is there a determining factor in that other than the one we just mentioned, or is this just semantics at this point?
It's a bit of semantics, but I can share most of our teachers and employees, administrators have a scheduled time for volunteers. So there's a start time and typically an end time that coincides with that activity.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Zinke?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I like, again, it's always in the definitions, right? And that's the important part here. If you, I guess, I'm wondering if there's a moment when someone does show up, in what capacity they're showing up. Is there a distinction, right? So again, if you're credentialed, you've gone through all of the processes to be a volunteer, but you're just there to be a visitor. There should be maybe something that says that's why you're there, or else there's this game that can be played to stay longer or to, observe in the wrong capacity. Again, I don't think that's happening. I certainly don't think that there's echoing Marty's sentiments there. There's a very limited aspect in which a volunteer is there strictly for observation, but I guess it is possible.
So I have a question. If we have a volunteer that's there, they come in the morning, they volunteer, they stuff peaches or whatever that is that they're doing, and then they choose to not leave, but maybe go to a different class to observe, what at that point they become a visitor in that classroom. What can we do or have set in here that requires them to either go back to the office, to register as a visitor, to notify, or do we maybe state that, you know, any visitor, any volunteer there for the reasons, purpose of observation is required to notify the administration prior to visiting for the purpose of observation? Does that make sense? Something along those lines.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
At that point, they're changing their status.
Right.
The principal needs to be informed.
Right. But we don't want parents just walking around the school, walking into classrooms, observing teachers, because that disrupts that.
Without proper notice.
Right. Without proper notice. Yeah. We don't want our teachers caught off guard.
Correct.
By that. Ms.
Yes,
Jackson.
so they started as a volunteer and then they changed their status.
Mhm.
They can't just decide that. It has to be prearranged or else they have to go get specific permission from the administrator.
Right. I just think that we need to
Write
make
something.
make something that falls within that, in that.
Yeah, so change of status has to be known by administration, preferably in advance.
Well, number one on school visitors is persons wishing to visit a class should make arrangements in advance. So I would say if you came as a volunteer, you can't just on the spur of the moment say, and now I'm going to go visit wherever I want, because you have violated the first rule of a visit. You need to make that in advance.
And I think our teachers should have the ability to, if they have someone come in to observe, call down to the office and say, can you please send, whichever principal down. I need their assistance or however that works. I don't know, but we need to empower our teachers to create a safe space for learning for our kids. So.
Could we change the sentence here to say volunteers who are on campus strictly for the purpose of observation must follow policy number 905, the visitation policy?
That's
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
All right. Any other questions, thoughts, or concerns from the board? All right. Who would like to be brave enough to make a motion for our school volunteer policy? Ms. Jansen.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised board policy 906 and with all the amendments that were suggested by the board.
I'll second that.
All right. I have a motion by Ms. Jansen and a second by Ms. Knighting. Any further discussion or questions? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, on to agenda item number 8, consolidation scenarios.
Can we take a short recess before we go into the consolidations?
Yeah, let's take a 10-minute recess.
Okay, and then I'd like to just talk to the 3 officers.
Okay.
at the Recess.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Zinke and Ms. Jackson, are you still there?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, we are back from recess at this time. And we are going to move on to agenda item number 8, consolidation scenarios. Mr. Alvarado.
All right, thank you, President Wagstaff. I think this is the moment our audience and board have been waiting for this evening. We had to fit in some business to make sure we were meeting timelines for implementation. Before I get started into the scenarios that you've directed me to present tonight, I'd like to have our legal counsel, Keith Catolo, just provide some legal steps that we have to take to go forward with this.
Yeah, so there's some notice requirements that the board should be aware of. So this is NRS 393.080 subsection 2. So a proposal to close a school or consolidate a school, there's a 30-day written notice requirement to the principal, teachers, and the parents of the children attending the school. And then there's a 10-day notice requirement that the notice of the meeting needs to be published in a newspaper of general circulation 10 days before the meeting. So we're not here to do any of that tonight. We're just here to discuss the scenarios and to determine or discuss which ones merit further consideration. But those notice requirements will be, if the board goes forward, agendized and brought back at a future meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, as I move forward, the purpose of this agenda item in terms of board action is to provide me direction on which scenarios to take to a district-wide town hall tomorrow. That's scheduled here at 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And that's where I will solicit overall general public input, stakeholder engagement activity, and the board is invited. We will have 3 board members present in person and 3 board members attending through Zoom to avoid any quorum or potential open meeting law violation. Okay, so looking at the consolidations. So consolidation means merging one or more campuses. And they're an alternative to making reductions at each school site that may reduce the efficiency and effectiveness of providing high quality teaching and learning. Consolidations can alleviate increasing class sizes, eliminating programs, and minimize harmful effects of the instructional programming. Why consolidation? As everybody knows, we are in financial distress. We are experiencing declining enrollment, and it's time for the district to move forward with right-sizing the district for fiscal and financial sustainability for years to come. We're currently deficit spending. We've been coordinating our efforts with Department of Taxation, in which I do have a weekly meeting with them. So as we move forward, Jared, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so here are the 2 scenarios. A scenario is looking at our 2 middle schools, returning 6th grade back to elementary schools. This does not mean returning our current middle schoolers back to elementary school. What this means is our elementary schools keeping their 5th graders who will then become 6th graders. So it's a phased increase process. Part 2 of this scenario, which I was directed to present, is having a phased increase at elementary schools so that they serve kindergarten through 8th grade, which I'm referencing as an Ella Middle School in this presentation. Okay, so here are some myths. So consolidations will not lead to increased class sizes. So a myth is that it will lead to increased class sizes. We have that class size ratio plan that we submit to the state that's signed off by our association. We will maintain a CSR plan moving forward, ensure that we have class sizes that are of reasonable size. Consolidation does not mean a loss of electives in athletics. We will work with our leaders. Our leaders' job is to plan to ensure that we have high quality teaching and learning at our schools, but electives may look different. So if the board were to choose an Ella Middle School option, K through 8, that's where the brainstorming sessions and our leaders will come together to design what they feel is appropriate for their school sites and provide opportunities to our kids. So the last item here, current middle school students will not be pulled back to elementary school. That could be detrimental socially, as well as the climate and culture of the school sites. So we will move current 5th graders up a level, and then depending on the scenario, it could mean moving all the way up to 8th grade. Okay, so here are enrollment trends at Carson Valley Middle School in the orange. It's a nice visual. I will have numbers to represent these enrollment trends. And then we also have the Powaloo Middle School trend slightly below. As you can see, going back 10 years, they were pretty much on the same pathway up until the 24-25 school year, where you see Carson Valley Middle School take a slight increase and then a slight decrease at Powaloo. Okay, so currently our middle schools serve, we've added an elective for our 5th grade students. And this shows, participation in population and 5th grade band at each of the middle schools. And then once again, a reference that the current 6th and 7th graders will be 7th and 8th graders for the 26-27 school year. And then in this slide, we removed the 5th grade band. So 6th and 7th grade will become 7th and 8th grade next year. And what you'll see is a combined middle school without band present. We'd have approximately 734 students going into next school year. And that's assuming a very positive assumption that we retain 100% of our students, which has not been the case as we look at our enrollment trends over time, as well as our declining enrollment averages. Okay, cost savings for a consolidation of CVMS and Powaloo Middle School. Between both school sites, they have the FTE combined on the left column. And then on the right column, as we consolidate schools into one school, that's the proposed FTE. With the total savings of approximately $961,103, in which we would reduce overhead costs, and that includes salary and benefits for all of those positions. And so this, once again, is part 1 of initial consolidation, and there is a part 2 that we'll get to. Okay, utility cost comparison. You'll see over the last year, CVMS utilities were about $192,000. Powaloo's utilities were about $168,000. The board can expect about a 60% cost savings for whatever school that you choose to be consolidated into the other school. Okay, so in the phased increase process, as 5th graders become 6th graders, and then the 2 middle schools are combined into a 7th and 8th grade, we would look at a phased out program of that 1 middle school, in which as 8th graders move into 9th grade, those 7th graders become 8th graders, which would be the final year of that 1 middle school. And then in the 28-29 school year is where the 1 middle school would be eliminated, because the 5th graders have now progressed to 6th grade, 7th grade, and then finally 8th grade in the 28-29 school year. So I showed you the cost savings for the initial consolidation. Here in part 2, we're looking at $1,286,093. And that would be a savings that happens in the 28-29 school year. Okay, I worked collaboratively with our middle school principals to gauge what the benefits and what the disadvantages are for each of the schools. So I'll just go ahead and read all of these to you, but I want you to know that they had a lot of input to draft these 4 slides that we're going to go through next. So for CVMS, CVMS is centrally located within the valley for all families with close proximity to Douglas High School. They have 2 full-size gymnasiums, including one recently renovated with updated HVAC, flooring, ceiling, paint, and LED lighting. Currently, their other gym does have a repair that we're working through an insurance claim to repair that. And we do anticipate that the insurance will accept that claim and then cover the costs, and we'll just have to cover the deductible for that, just so you're aware. CVMS has a functional track and field facility suitable for school and community events. It has a strategic location, serving as a central transportation hub to reduce cost. Has a dedicated CLS space designed to support instruction and practical and life skills programming. It also has experienced recent HVAC improvements in multiple areas of the facility, and that happened over summer of 2024. The campus layout requires outdoor transitions, allowing for natural light exposure that may support student well-being. There's a long list of electives and other course options that they provide at CVMS. CVMS showed significant student population growth, about 50 students, and this does not include the 5th grade band or the math classes in the current year, and serves the majority of the middle school students in the Carson Valley. The administrative office space is capable of housing all required personnel, currently providing band for approximately 35 5th graders from MES, Pinion, GES, in Jacks Valley. And there's outdoor recreational areas that are open and accessible to students. Currently on their staff, they do have a campus safety monitor, and then it has historical significance to the Carson Valley community. Here are some disadvantages. So there are ongoing facility needs, and that happens with every aging facility. And this includes gym repairs and the remaining HVAC concerns. It has a limited quad size. There is traffic congestion during student arrival and dismissal. There's insufficient on-site parking, and there's lack of dedicated green space there. And then the outdoor transition between classes may present challenges due to weather or supervision consideration. Okay, before I go on to Paualu, are there any questions regarding these 2 slides? Trustee Jansen.
Is there room at CVMS to add additional parking? Is there a place that could happen?
They do have some acreage in the back that would that we would have to have a construction project to develop, but they do have some additional land.
That's good. Thank you.
I'm sure this has been brought up, but what is CVMS, or what is their total capacity of students?
On the total amount of students they can serve?
Yes.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I'll pull up that capacity.
I was trying to remember, and I was trying to have it ahead of time, and I could not for the life of me remember where that was.
So we're going to use the capacity that's outlined within the open enrollment policy. Just over 1,000, so 1,087 students. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, moving on to Paualu. Oh,
Mr. Zinke and Ms. Jackson, do you have any questions about CVMS?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
No, I'm good. I can barely hear Superintendent Alvarado. I think before break I could hear everyone quite clearly, and it might be across the board. It's a lot quieter now.
Okay. We'll try harder.
I brought the mic closer. How's that, Trustee Zinke?
It's most likely on my end. You're very soft spoken, so it's okay.
Okay, I don't want to yell. I think I'll blow everybody's.
Yeah, understood. I think it's on the computer. You're okay.
Okay. All right, moving on to Paualu benefits. So Paualu, it's a newer building built in 1994 with space for the district office staff with a separate entrance in their G-pod. It has a larger footprint on 30 acres of land to expand if needed. They have grade level pods promoting community engagement. There's CTE alignment, so ceramics, green architecture, design, and modeling. And in terms of alignment, it's not necessarily alignment that flows into the pathways here at Douglas High School, but they do have CTE courses for their students. There's 2 gyms to allow for 2 sports to practice simultaneously. They have an addition spin and weight room, also allows for multiple PE classes and units to be taught simultaneously. They have multiple outdoor spaces. I don't know. Can you hear me? Okay. Multiple outdoor spaces, a lower field with baseball field, upper field with the track, cross-country course on campus with no vehicle traffic, hiking possible for PE and outdoor science. They also have rental space capabilities, tribal basketball tournaments, cafe space for community meetings. They have partnerships with Scarcelli and Cece for clubs, bands, ceramics, food, and a green screen option for them to utilize. They have ample space for transportation with extra bus lane in the back. We do park our buses there as well. A single point of entry with offices immediately in the front, a safety tent on all exterior windows, and it's centrally located for Pine View, Wellington, and Topaz Ranch estates. Okay, moving on to the disadvantages. So location. We can possibly lose North County area to Carson Middle School. Transportation time, it's 6 miles further south. 4-way stop traffic in front of the school. There's poor cell service for some carriers, and the fencing has not been completed by parking lot for a fully enclosed school campus. Any questions regarding Powalloo's benefits and disadvantages? Okay, the K through 8 elemental school.
Ms. Miller.
What is their total capacity? And then how many students at the North Valley schools?
974 for Powalloo. And then you want to know 5th grade enrollment currently? Yeah, let's see, what is it? 48 at Jacks Valley and 53 at Pinion.
Thank you.
And that's also on the other consolidation presentation that's attached. I just don't have both of them up. Okay, K through 8 elemental schools, we would do a phased increase as I discussed before to build up grade levels over the next 3 school years. Some benefits to a K through 8 elemental school. It delays a future consolidation by 10 years or more. For declining on average 166 students annually, we can anticipate to decline about 800 more students over the next 5 years. So currently this year in 25-26, we've received 166 homeschool registrations for this year, and this is as of last week. So we have already met our declining enrollment numbers as it relates to homeschool students leaving the district. On average, we typically lose about 130 students annually to homeschool. The K through 8 elemental school would increase elementary enrollment by 50 to 65 students per grade level in 6th through 8th grade. At the completion of the phased increase, our elementary school students would increase 130 to 160 students. Once again, that assumes that we retain 100% of our student population in K through 8. Jared, next slide. Okay, here's some benefits to the elemental schools. I did send research articles to the board. I hope all of you had an opportunity to read those research articles over the weekend. From those articles, here are the benefits. And I will later go back and cite the articles on this slide as well, and possibly attach them to this agenda item. So through those research articles, I can tell you that every school district that was researched does not match the identity of Douglas County School District. So we can't necessarily apply those articles to our particular situation. But what we can say is, what they looked at is the smaller cohort of students may equate to more desirable outcomes over time. They saw a decrease in behavioral issues, a decrease in exposures to vaping. Smaller cohorts may reduce bullying. It can increase attendance. And it definitely build stronger connections with families because they know what the climate, culture, and expectations are at those schools, and develop relationships with administration over a long period of time. For facilities, and there's enough space to hold all grade levels, with the exception of MES. But here in this research article, their facilities did have all the space needed. But as it pertains to Douglas County, MES would reach capacity at the point that they have 7th grade. So they could never hold an 8th grade on their campus because they also house a pre-K program. So elementary schools also maintain the location of local community schools. And then the social impact, there are long-term social relationships for peer groups. Okay, lots of disadvantages here. And this is as it pertains to Douglas County School District. So for our facilities, there's no dedicated music classroom, CTE classroom. The NPRs will limit middle school athletics to one sport at a time. Not all of the NPRs in our elementary schools have full court capacity. So we wouldn't be able to practice or play games for certain sports at those campuses, Jacks Valley and CC. Other elementary schools also have half courts. They are also a shared space for lunch. So, that's problematic as well because those areas need to be deep cleaned more frequently. The space will limit elective course opportunities. There will be no restorative justice classroom space for the elemental schools. And then common spaces for all age children. They'll have to share the same bathrooms, the same NPR, same bus stop locations, also possibly the same bus routes where we'd be putting all these multi-age kids in. I already mentioned MES hitting capacity at 7th grade. It will eliminate the district's ability to provide pre-K services at our elementary schools because we're providing services to the middle school students at the elementary school. In regard to transportation, increased ridership may lead to supervision issues for our bus drivers or bus aides. Additional routes may be required because of lack of space on buses. For instructional time, transition time can be tricky with bell schedules, start and end times, professional learning communities for our teachers. It'll definitely limit the offerings of specialized age-specific extracurriculars. And I just threw a couple examples like music programs, ceramics, but also for all the other middle school CTE programs. There will be a counselor learning curve for academic credit accrual for middle school students. Although some of our counselors may have that knowledge, we don't know at this time if all of them have that knowledge. And then it may limit advanced courses for English and math, which we have at our middle schools. Social impact eliminates a transition from one level to the next, which hinders students gaining adaptability skills, and then limits social interactions and friendships to a smaller pool of students of similar age. And then last but not least, early childhood exposure to adolescent behaviors. We did talk about, having those multi-age students share bathrooms, bus rides. So, our younger children will be exposed to that. Okay, so this just shows, a cost savings for all the scenarios the board has directed me to present here. And this includes the utility cost savings. So to consolidate into one middle school and return 6th grade to elementary, then we would have a total estimated annual savings of $1,061,903. If you move forward with the part 2, phased increase to a K-8 elemental school, that would bring a savings of $1,502,093 in total. If you were to select both of those, $2,563,996, which will not be actualized until the 3rd year. I just showed the cost savings for the north and the south scenarios that were presented earlier. And Jared, go ahead, next slide. Okay, so board consideration. I want you to know there's no sequence or grades that is perfect or in itself guarantees student academic achievement and healthy social and emotional development. I want to remind you our job is to provide high quality teaching and learning to all of our students, but also to provide positive social activities, sports, programs, etc. You do have the flexibility of considering a hybrid option. Once again, that open enrollment policy that you reviewed and the state's intent for that open enrollment policy is to provide parents with different choices on educational services for their children. So for this evening, I just want to remind you, what you'll be providing me tonight is direction on what scenarios to bring to tomorrow night's town hall. And then I will prepare those slides and present them to the community, allow a Q&A, and then also allow the community to provide their concerns to me that we can address once a decision is made. Jared, can you go back to the cost saving slide? Okay, at this time, the board can have discussion, ask further questions.
Ms. Knighting.
Do you think it would be good for each board member to just take a moment and kind of say where they are, what they're thinking on these, and see what kind of, where we all are to begin with?
I would almost say let's ask questions first, so that we can answer any questions that maybe we didn't think of, somebody else did, before we do that. So, any questions from the board? Ms. Miller?
What is the target number that we are looking to save with all the other reductions we have done already? I think that's a huge piece of information that I think we need to see before we ask more questions.
Yeah, we're looking for approximately $1 million in savings.
Ms. Jansen, do you have any questions? Okay. Mr. Zinke?
I don't have any questions. I think it's important. It feels like we're throwing a lot out there to see what can stick. And we do have some consolidation issues that certainly something needs to take place in order to hit these numbers. We've seen the elementary school proposal. We now see a middle school proposal and then a K through 8. And I would just remind you, I think we need to make the least number of changes that we possibly can in order to accommodate the budget shortfall. And so I ask you, would we be considering a K through 8 if we were not in a financial crisis? And I don't think that answer is yes. I think we have only thought of a K through 8 for the sake of a budget crisis that we can think outside the box. But realistically, if we can consolidate some middle schools, there's only 2, so I didn't mean to say some there, or consolidate a couple of elementary schools and come up with $1 million, mission accomplished. We have the continuity and the consistency throughout the district that would allow for us to both have the same educational program for our kids, not eliminate any kind of electives or other athletic programs, that type of scenario, while being able to judge what people are accomplishing because they're all in the same program, if that makes sense. So like in a phased reduction, there will certainly be schools that are at a particular K through 8 and not, and a middle school here and that. And so I think we just need to stick to the least amount of change with the maximum amount of benefit and go from there.
Ms. Jackson?
Yeah, I just had a question of, it comes down to we are going to be consolidating one school, right? We're going to have one that we're not going to be using anymore. What are the thoughts of how that would be used? Would we be selling that property? Would we be using it for other purposes? Do we have any thoughts on what that would look like?
Yeah, we would repurpose the facility. The board has asked me to look into the sale of the district office. I'm currently taking the steps for that, and we will have a future agenda item on that as well that complies with legal guidance. If that takes place, we will need a home for the district office. Depending on these different scenarios and the direction on the board, that if we were to choose that facility that has been consolidated, we can consider housing our pre-K programs at that facility, or even expanding our programs to offer daycare to our community.
Thank you.
Once again, those are just ideas. Those aren't formal commitments at this time.
Right. Okay. But just, yeah, just so we can understand, it will probably still be being used by the district. It won't be sold or demolished or anything. And then I agree with Marcus that in having to make a decision so quickly, that I feel like we do need to kind of just do something simple. I mean, in the future, we're probably going to have to do more consolidations if our district continues to lose students. But yeah, to do something that would be the least disruptive, I guess, at this point, and then maybe, we can plan with more time as we make other changes.
Ms. Knighting?
This is more just kind of a statement along the lines of what Heather and Marcus have said. Just in looking at this objectively, I don't want our students to lose opportunities. And I really feel like a K through 8, you severely limit opportunities to our students. And I would hate to see that happen. Even in a consolidation of a middle school, you lose those things for our 6th graders. I've been to both of the middle schools in just the last couple of weeks, and our 6th graders are thriving in those middle schools. So it comes down really to what is the best for our students and the least disruptive, but we do need $1 million in consolidations. And I would just say one thing that hasn't been really considered in merging an elementary school is the fact of you have a lot of 5th graders that are already over at that middle school for band and for advanced math and other things. If you did consolidate an elementary school, you could look at, you would have a huge elementary school, but in order to do that, to mitigate that, you have the option of redistricting probably every elementary school in our district, which would be disruptive in and of itself. But what if you were to take the 5th grade from a consolidated elementary and move them to the middle school? Many of them go for first period for band. I know at Pawalu, and at Pawalu, if you were to select the schools in the ranchos, you would have enough space. They would have a whole pod to themselves, so they could be somewhat still separated, have more opportunities, and no student is losing those opportunities to be part of your band, your music, your drama, your sports, all of those things. And I think in looking at elementaries too, I ran the numbers of just rate of decline over years. I looked at them for, if my math is correct, for 10 years and then 5 years. And in 5 years, Jacks Valley and Pinion Hills, where they were closer to the same as C.C. Manili and Scarcelli to begin with, they went to 1.5 and 2.2 over 5 years, average rate of decline over 5 years, where C.C. Manili and Scarcelli continued to decrease at the rate of over 4%, and where they'd started at. Also, I looked at, and this is just objectively, I looked at being true to our communities, which is some communities, if you take the school out of it, that school is gone. There is not a school in that community, and you kind of lose identity there. The Ranchos community has been blessed to have 2 elementary schools within 1.5 miles of each other. It's 1.4 miles, and it would be heartbreaking to lose either, to have those schools not both be functioning, but you would still have an elementary school in that community, where at some of these other communities, there would be no school there anymore. And so those were just some objective things I was looking at as we're moving forward. But I think it's really important that the problem never becomes bigger than the people we're serving. And those are our students, and I don't want them to lose opportunities.
So in response to some of that you just stated, my concern with moving 5th grade up to a middle school would be that we are exposing our 5th graders then to things that we are having issues with in the middle school, the vaping, the bullying. And those are not things that I think in fifth grade that our kids are ready to deal with.
But yet we're looking at a K-8, which you're exposing a 5-year-old to those same things.
But I feel like it would be a little bit different because our current fifth graders would never go to middle school. They would never have that group.
And I guess my thing to that is change is hard. And transitioning to middle school is hard. But there is one thing you can count on in this life, and that is change. And for our students, I think it would be more beneficial to them to give them the tools they need to make changes and give them the support they need, because that with change also comes opportunity. And it can be messy. Changes can be messy, but they're at a time of life that there's already a lot of changes. And I know that, fifth graders are younger, and I know some schools do 5th through 8. And that's why, in considering this, you would have a separate space for them. But still, it would provide opportunities instead of pulling back opportunities or pulling them all back into elementaries, because we don't want them to, have to face a change or transition, where I think we support them in that. And that's just my thought on it is we offer the support and we teach them how to make, go through changes, because change is a fact of life. I mean, obviously change is hard, or we wouldn't all be sitting here, kind of upset, because even as adults, change is hard. This is a hard thing to change, but to me, help them through, give them the tools, but don't hold them back.
Ms. Jansen?
So I agree with everyone that we want to be do the least disruptive thing, where the least amount of students are impacted and the least amount of families. The other thing that I kind of think we should consider is kind of a hybrid situation, where maybe we have one school that is K-8 and then kind of work from there, because some parents would want their kids to be in that situation, maybe at Pinion Hills or something like that, where, just throwing that out. And then the others could be either K-6, K-5, whatever is decided by the group. It's just, I think it is more marketable to have different choices. Like a lot of the homeschool parents might be more comfortable in that choice, and we could get some of them back. I don't know. It's a hard decision.
I have a question for Miss Knighting, if I may.
Yeah.
What opportunity would 5th graders be losing from the current way that it is to a consolidation? I'm missing something there.
I'm not saying that the 5th graders, I'm saying if you put all the 6th graders, if you kept the 6th graders back, they would be losing the opportunities they have right now. I am saying that if you consolidated an elementary school, that it would be too big to be in one building. So just as an option for possibly, if we decided to consolidate in the Ranchos, you could run a K-4, and there would be space that they could have a dedicated space at Pawalu, which would offer them more opportunities, but they are not losing without that. If that makes sense.
I understand that. The way I see it is, it looks like if you consolidate an elementary school in the Ranchos, based on our current declining enrollment, they do fit. So I guess I'm missing something there.
Yeah, well, I've walked both of those sites with both of the principals, and I can tell you, you would be almost wheezing out of some of those schools. To me, it wouldn't be equitable really to have a school that's pushing 600 kids and having others that are, 230. So,
yeah, versus others, sure. But then that's where some of this
your choice would be to redistrict all of our elementary schools, which would be, to me, extremely disruptive to our kids. Or this was just an alternate idea, that what if you kept those kids that are already in the Ranchos in that community in a K-4, and had the 5th graders who are already going over for band and some other things, if you moved them into Pawalu, into their own pod, and they continued, their relationship, they were continuing their band or whatever they were doing before. But I wasn't saying they were going to lose opportunities. I was saying in this model, they would gain some opportunity there.
Right. So I understand that, but that's what I'm saying. So if again, if we're doing consolidations, which it certainly looks like we need to do, the idea would be trying to avoid any loss of opportunity, not necessarily a proved gain of opportunity, right? And so, like, I know that sounds convoluted, but again, if we're trying to make the least amount of change to keep things as close to what they are currently while saving the most amount of money, yes, if there's a discrepancy in class size or in number of available rooms, sure, but there are other schools that are open with more room, that redistricting doesn't have to be this crazy difficult thing. There could be people from the northern part of the southern zone that go to Manili could go to GES pretty easily. Again, I'm projecting here, but there are ways around this. But I think you're bringing up even maybe a broader point, which is we don't know these intricacies, but we have people that do, and they're all sitting to your left. And so I think the best way is that we come forth with an idea of, yes, and very vague. We need to consolidate 2 of the elementary schools, or we need to consolidate the middle schools, and then we leave the details to the experts when it regards number of classes, number of needed classes for special programs, number of students per class, transportation, meals, logistics, any of that stuff that we don't know.
Well, and I'm not talking logistics. I am talking about grade placement. And to me, I mean, this would be definitely in, coordination with them. I'm just saying that I think it's something that I would like looked into, is to moving the 5th grade to do that instead of redistricting every single elementary school in the district.
Well, I just mean logistics in the broader sense. That technically is a logistical issue, right? If you're moving 5th grade to a different school, there are all kinds of logistics.
There would be logistics in that. I agree. That's beyond my thing. I'm just saying I would like to look at the possibility, if we consolidated into the ranchos instead of redistricting every single elementary school, seeing if moving the 5th grade into the Pawalu would be the least disruptive, still get us our cost, still have an elementary in all of the areas that we currently do. To me, it's worth looking into, because we still recoup that money. We don't have our 6th graders, losing out on their opportunities. And to me, it's just something I want to look into, but I'm not going into all the logistics, just the possibility of bringing the 5th grade to Pawalu.
Okay.
How many students would fit in the G-Pod? Would it hold?
Yeah.
We could fit 5th grade at Pawalu.
So you could fit the CC and the Scarcelli 5th graders in that pod
Yes.
that you were talking about potentially having a district office in?
It would be an E-pod, not G-pod. It's one of the other pods, not the one that you're talking about, the district office.
Okay. So then I guess my question is what that sounds like is potentially consolidating CC Scarcelli, which is one of the first ones that we looked at, but at Scarcelli, making that K-4 and then moving that 5th grade to Pawalu.
Whichever of those 2 elementaries remained open. Yes, the consolidated elementary, and this, like I said, this is a scenario that I would like brought to the town hall. This is one of them that I would like brought, that first scenario, but with the caveat of looking at bringing 5th grade then to Pawalu. So you would have a K-4 combined elementary in the ranchos, and you would have a 5th through 8th at Pawalu.
Okay. Would we still then, we wouldn't then be considering potentially then pushing 6th grade back down, or would we still look at that for the other school?
There would be, to me, no reason to disrupt the 6th graders and not let them continue at CVMS.
Okay. What about where in there, we also talked, there's also in here, a North Region K-8. Would that be something that we would possibly still consider? Because then that gives potentially parents 3 different options of middle school. Because then you have your cohort, you have your small schools type situation, which I completely understand the pros and cons of that.
It would be 4 because we have Aspire Middle School as well.
That's true. Aspire is 7 through 8th. Okay. As well. But it gives our families options, which I think is huge, rather than just, we have change, but sometimes it has to be forced, and that's kind of where we're at now.
And maybe we could go the hybrid if you wanted to, if we could bring that to the town hall of a hybrid of possibly, I think Pinion Hills would be the only elementary that really would have the space to do something like that.
It'd be interesting to see, like, if we brought multiple scenarios to the town hall on what our, obviously we still have public comment tonight too, on what that looks like if we were to apply an option of a 5-8, 7 or 6, 7 to 8, K-8, and then obviously Aspire, online 7-8.
Aspire's in person.
Oh,
Aspire's not part of any consolidation scenario.
right. No, but I'm just saying,
It's
like,
just
it
as
gives
an option
options
for parents.
for parents as a middle school options. But trying to least disrupt our students, hit what we need to do for Department of Taxation, and help our community move forward into a new school year.
I do want to point out the intent of Aspire is to have an alternative middle school. So
Right.
I understand what you're
it's-
saying, but
yeah.
it's an alternative middle school. It's not a
Correct.
comprehensive middle school.
Correct. A question that I have is if we put 6th grade back to elementary and we combined our middle schools, would we be able to offer all of the options that our current our 2 middle schools have? Would we be able to offer all those programs and electives to our students?
In 7th and 8th grade in one middle school, yes.
Okay. As a parent, I would have jumped at the opportunity for my child to not go to middle school in 6th grade. Because I feel like it forces them to grow up faster than as parents I think we want our kids to. And maybe what they're not, whether they're ready or not. I think because it worked prior to what year does anybody
My daughter was
remember?
the last 6th grader, I believe, to go through when 6th grade was in the elementaries here.
And my
So-
son was the first
So as
6th grader at middle school.
So as a mother, I've experienced one that was in 6th grade in elementary, and I've experienced 3 that were in 6th grade
Right.
she didn't know any different and that, but some of my other kids had opportunities she didn't have. Starting with, they were in band, they were in track, they were in cross country, they got some of opportunities. And I think given, different things, there would be opportunities with the open enrollment if you didn't want,
If we move 6th grade back, would we still be able to offer band to our 5th and 6th graders?
My concerns would be the loss of instructional time to transport them to the middle school and back. That already is an issue with our current 5th graders. One thing that would be available is to have an advanced 6th grade. I've heard from many parents throughout the community that they would love to see advanced courses. And so we could have an advanced 6th grade program at the consolidated middle school. Once again, that's a whole nother scenario. We can't get into the details of that.
I was
but
going to
that's-
say,
yeah.
we're asking for more
Yeah.
scenarios and we're running out of time.
Yeah, and that's not a board decision. That's an
Okay.
operational decision that,
Okay.
I would work with the cabinet team to develop.
but I think that would be something to bring to the town hall meeting and see people, if you wanted to bring that as one of the options to the town hall meeting is bringing the 6th graders back and consolidating, the middle schools. I would say that is a viable option and we could bring it to
The town hall.
the town hall.
I think that's
I
important.
I just know my thing is I want more opportunities for kids, not less. And so, but this is bigger than my opinion. This is the community schools. These are our community schools, and that's why we're having these town halls. We want the input. We want to know what parents want, what teachers want, what elementary, And so I would say that is definitely one we would, we could bring back the option of keeping our sixth graders in the middle school and, combining the Ranchos elementaries and creating a K through 4 and a 5th through 8 at Powaloo, remaining 6th through 8th at CVMS. And if we wanted to do a hybrid of a K through 8 at Pinion Hills, that could be an option we bring, or we could bring the option of keeping all of our elementaries, consolidating the 2 middle schools with 6th grade going back to all the elementary schools. I think those are 2 viable options that we could bring to the town hall and see how the public feels on all those.
Real quick, how do we gauge the public interest on this? So with all due respect to my fellow board mates here, it sounds like everyone's afraid to upset anyone else. Is like, let's do a K through 8 at this side of the district and a 5th through 8 at this side, and we'll move 6th grade down here. And it's all these options to try to patronize our constituents and give everyone an option for something they might like. And that's not really our job, right? So our job is this 30,000 foot level. Let's try to find $1 million for our district and do so to try to keep the most continuity that we can. And we already have continuity, and we have a couple ideas that offer up maintaining said continuity. And so if we go to a town hall, or if we have public comment tonight, which certainly we will, I would imagine you have a handful of people across the board that are upset with any one of these ideas. And so how do we gauge who's the most upset or what the best answer is? Well, in my opinion, we already have the answers. We already have a system that's K through 5, and we have middle schools, and we have our high school, and we have all of this already in place. And so really, based on what you're all telling me, it sounds like the easiest option is to consolidate 2 of the elementary schools, and it keeps everything we have. And I don't know the numbers. This is where I would rely on Superintendent Alvarado and Jeannie Dwyer and all of them. How many classrooms do we have at each of the elementary schools? How many students do we need per classroom? Can we accommodate that? I think at Scarcelli, if I'm right here, there's 26 classrooms. If you have 4 grades per class, or 4 classes per grade, excuse me, and there's 6 grades, there's 24, there's 2 additional classrooms. Sounds like it works to me. I feel like we're going down this new rabbit hole of all these crazy ideas, and we're in the 11th hour.
So my thought in pulling 6th grade back to elementary school, consolidating middle schools, we're not singling out any one part of the valley. It is affecting everyone, and no one should feel left out of that. But I feel like if we did that, we would help our students to have the same opportunities at a middle school, whether they are at CVMS or Powaloo. They were then at one school getting the same opportunities. They would both be able to take Spanish. They would, right now, if you want to take Spanish, you have to be at CVMS. They don't offer it at Powaloo. So it equalizes that. So our kids have access to the same programs. And I think that's really important for our kids. But I feel like if we did that, we need to look at rebranding our school. It should not be CVMS, and it should not be Powaloo. It should be, that's beyond the board's thing, but I feel like it would have to be a new identity for that school. And it allows us to keep all of our elementary schools, and our elementary schools are where our families get involved. That is where the majority of our volunteering happens. That is where our parents become engaged with our administrators and our staff. And I feel like that losing a school could be detrimental, even if it's Scarcella and CC Manili. Those are two very different schools. They have different environments. And I don't think closing an elementary school is going to help our kids.
I would have to disagree that closing a middle school, I mean, I've been saying we need Spanish at Pawalu and making that equitable for a long time. But what you do is you keep the sixth graders back in, and to me, they are doing phenomenal in the middle schools that we have. Also, and that's one thing that I looked at, is these two schools are close enough that they're very different schools. They're both great schools. I love both of those schools, but they do serve the same Ranchos community. And to me, it makes more sense to consolidate there than it does to consolidate at the middle school level.
I think, I mean, for what we need for the town hall tomorrow night, and then what we need for our February 3rd meeting, as Marcus said, if we stay at that 30,000 feet, I think the three scenarios would be if we consolidate CC Manili and Scarcella, if we consolidate the two middle schools, or if we consolidate Jacks Valley and Pinion. I mean, those are kind of the three, kind of going back to, those are the three options that we've talked about. And any of the scenarios or the things we're talking about are coming back to that. And so it seems like that's kind of the direction we need to give the superintendent. And then, as Marcus said, as we make that decision, then they will determine how that's going to look and what grades are going to be where and what's going to happen. But I think if we get too much, it's going to be hard to get the feedback from the community that we need. And so I wonder if we should just focus on those three possibilities, or if there's one of those we want to say we're not interested in anymore, we no longer want to talk about that one, and just focus on two, that's another option.
Would it be would it be a board decision to decide whether or not fifth grade moves to the middle school?
It's not a board decision for that. Your decision is the consolidation, and then I'll decide the organization.
Okay. Just trying to figure out where.
It may be time for public comment.
Okay. Any further questions from the board before we go to public comment? Okay, then we will open it up for public comment at this time. And please make sure that you remember to state your name for the record, and the timer is behind me, so I won't ding the bell at you, but if you would keep an eye on your time, and please try really hard not to go over your time. That way everybody has the same amount of time. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Brian Patrick.
Please make sure you also speak closer to the microphone. Thank you.
If I get any closer, I'm going to be eating it. My name's Brian Patrick. Now, my son went to school at Jacks Valley, and he went to school at the middle school, and he went to DHS. He's a music teacher. Okay, and he teaches in Washoe. You want to bring my feeling is you want to bring a sixth grade back to the school. Okay, and you're concerned about music. Why don't you have the teacher come to the school and teach music to the fifth and sixth grade people who are interested in it? Instead of moving fifth grades and K through 4 and you don't have time for those kinds of ideas. We're struggling to create something here. What's necessary is to keep the schools we have as much as possible. And if bringing the sixth grades back into the elementary schools, which for some reason was done for 30 years here at this district, we had K through 6 and it worked. And we had 7th and 8th grade in the middle schools and it worked. If you need to consolidate a school, consolidate one of your middle schools and hold on to it for whatever reason you need to. And it'll work. And if your declining enrollment continues, you've got a high school that has a declining enrollment also. And you can move your 7th and 8th grades in there and it'll work. You're going to make it work. These people, these administrators and these teachers are what you have to trust in. You're floating ideas all over the place. These guys have scenarios. It'll work. You got to trust them. I got 45 seconds, but I'm not going to sing.
Thank you.
Hello. Okay, great, cool. Hello, my name is Mark Porter. I'm the current music teacher at Douglas High School. I would like to state I am strongly opposed to any consolidation that would involve K through 8 schools in the Valley. And I'm also opposed to any scenario involving consolidation at our middle schools, as this would have disastrous effects on our extracurricular programs, including visual arts, music, CTE, and foreign languages. Our middle and high school music courses currently serve about 450 secondary students and are continuing to grow year over year. When enrollment in music programs is high, it's a net positive to the entire school. I can't think of any other teacher that would gladly welcome 50 5th and 6th graders, give them loud, expensive instruments, and get them ready for a concert by the end of the semester. Those 50 students are students who are not taking seats in the general education classroom, helping alleviate overcrowded classrooms at their respective school sites. Speaking to the last gentleman's comment, even when you account for our declining enrollment as a district, when compared to other school districts in northern Nevada, Douglas County still has the least amount of secondary music teachers when compared to our student population. This isn't even including schools in Washoe County that have more resources. Elko High School has 3 music teachers on their campus. We have 3 secondary music teachers in total. This is even the case when we compare to school districts that are smaller than us, such as White Pine and Churchill, as well as larger school districts about 30 minutes north of us in Carson. I also take issue with the myth that these consolidations will have minimal effect on our elective offerings. Douglas County schools have historically always been understaffed in secondary music. We are already stretched thin with 3 music teachers at 3 secondary sites. So how are we supposed to adequately staff our music programs at more schools, assuming we split 6th and potentially 7th and 8th grade across 6 school sites? I kindly ask that you consider our extracurricular and co-curricular programs at our secondary schools when making these consolidations. Please understand that historically these programs in our county have been able to do more with less, and speaking from personal experience, our current budget issues are certainly not because we've been overfunding our arts, CTE, and elective programs. We historically have difficulty retaining teachers in these positions. If they are cut, we will likely not get them back. The educators involved in these programs are completely in the dark regarding how our programs will be structured and what school sites we will be at when this is all said and done. We would like to have an open line of communication and collaboration instead of our concerns acting as a footnote on this presentation that presents no real solutions to the problem presented aside from, well, we will still have them. Having a program is the bare minimum. It's the support of administrators at all levels ensuring adequate staffing and funding that truly defines how much a district values the arts. I again want to state for the record, I'm strongly against any K through 8 consolidation and am generally opposed to any middle school consolidation as well, as it would do active harm to our elective programs such as art, music, and foreign languages. Please remember and consider the scenarios presented at the January 7th board meeting before making up your mind. And I'm out of time. I got a lot more thoughts, but thank you.
Thank you.
Is it on?
Okay, perfect. Yes, so just make sure you state your name for the record.
Okay, so my name's Sophia Chia. I'm a student at Pawalu Middle School and I'm in the 8th grade. I'm very involved in my school, such as I am part of leadership, yearbook, and NGHS. And I would like to voice my opinion and concerns about the new K-8 school. The K-8 school would affect students negatively instead of positively. First, one school would not be able to fit all of the students' needs. Younger kids and middle schoolers are at vastly different learning and emotional stages. Younger children need more of a nurturing environment, while middle schoolers are more independent. Putting these two different groups together would not work out, and it would be difficult to fit the group's needs. Next, younger kids may feel unsafe having to share hallways with older kids. These two age gaps create a higher risk of bullying and exposure to inappropriate behavior. Even with separate areas or schedules, it would still make it difficult for teachers and adults to monitor the students. Third, a K-8 school can and will negatively impact academic learning. Elementary schools and middle schools have very different styles of learning. Elementary schools work on foundational learning skills, while middle schools have subject-based classes, require higher critical thinking, and have a rotating bell schedule. Combining these two learning styles will lead to compromises that would negatively affect both. Also, middle schools will have less opportunities for advanced courses and electives. Personally, one of my favorite things about middle school is getting to try new electives and having advanced classes. We don't have a building in the district that can fit all the electives. Lastly, having kids stay in one school for most of their academic career will affect them. Going to a new school with older kids helps you to become more mature and gets you into an environment that prepares you for high school. One of my favorite things when I first started middle school was the freedom you got. How would you be able to combine freedom for the older kids in a K-8 school without the younger kids getting jealous? This freedom taught me how to be a more responsible and mature kid. In conclusion, while budget cuts are a serious concern, I don't think a K-8 school is a good solution. It impacts students' academic needs, safety, and disrupts learning. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. You'll need to turn the microphone on.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Angela Goff, and I'm a proud teacher at Pawalu Middle School. I would like to speak tonight about why keeping 6th grade in our middle schools and keeping both Pawalu and CVS open will benefit our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students academically, socially, and developmentally. 6th grade is a very pivotal year. Students are ready to dive deeper into specialized learning and begin exploring their interests in meaningful ways. In a middle school setting, students have access to a broader array of electives and extracurricular opportunities that simply aren't possible in our current elementary structure and facilities. Our middle schools offer band, choir, theater, technology, art, foods, and other elective classes, which is something that's already been said a lot tonight. These classes meet 4 times a week as part of the regular schedule. Our elementary students have a very limited elective schedule, which includes having music and art once a week for only half of each year. For many students, regular music participation in band and choir supports academic success. Research shows that students involved in music programs tend to score higher on standardized tests. For example, one study found music students scored roughly 20 to 22% higher in math and English than their non-music peers. Band and choir also build teamwork, discipline, self-confidence, and persistence, skills we know are highly correlated with success in middle school and beyond. 5th and 6th grade are the best times for students to begin playing a band instrument and to begin singing in choir. Middle school environments also allow students to experience a wider range of clubs and teams that cultivate belonging and engagement, including athletics, which helps students find their niche and stay invested in school. Structured elective and ensemble programs for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students provide consistent, high-quality instructional time and opportunities for growth that elementary settings cannot match due to staffing, facility, and schedule limitations. One of my biggest concerns about moving 6th grade back down to elementary is, as a band director, is the space that would be needed. As far as I know, there's not a dedicated music room at any of the schools. We would need new sets of percussion. There's a lot of equipment that would need to be purchased, and I'm concerned about sound bleed through. If my room is right next to like a 2nd grade classroom, that would be very difficult for those the second graders to concentrate while my beginning band is rocking, which they do. In short, placing sixth grade in middle school gives our students earlier access to varied coursework, robust arts programs like our bands and choirs, and extracurriculars that promote academic motivation, social belonging, and long-term engagement. It positions them to discover passions, develop critical thinking and decision-making skills, and make the most of their middle school years. It is my belief that consolidating the elementary schools and keeping both middle schools open, allowing the sixth graders to stay in middle school is the best option for our district and our students.
Ms. Goff, you're out of time.
Am I out of time?
Yes, it goes
Thank
really
you
fast.
guys so
I'm
much.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank
I
you
tried
very
to go
much.
fast.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kayla, just for the record. I would like to say that I'm pretty involved. I'd like to say that I'm pretty involved in my school system as I'm the president of NJHS at Paul Middle. I was in leadership last year and I'm part of yearbook now. So I want to speak on not only behalf of myself, but everyone at Paul. Now I'd like to talk about how if we merge middle schools, how we should be binding into Paul Middle and not CVMS. Based on the information that I've been given, Pawalu is a better location than CVMS. If the two schools were to merge, reasons related to size, safety, faculties, resources, transportation, and student programs. Size and building conditions, Pawalu is a larger and newer school than CVMS. Because it is newer, it has updated air conditioning, heating, and ventilation systems, which means it will likely lead to fewer repairs in coming years. CVMS has already shown the need for many major repairs, which could be costly over time. Classroom space. Pawalu has several empty or available classrooms allowing for more students to attend without overcrowding. Outdoor faculties and student resources. Pawalu offers more outdoor resources than CVMS, including 4 square courts, sand volleyball court, a baseball field, a soccer field, a track, multi-purpose use field, basketball hoops that are in playable condition, and sand pits that are available for track and cross country. Pawalu provides more opportunities for physical activity, sports, and student engagement. Lunch and outdoor space. Pawalu has multiple lunch areas as well as a large open concrete space where students can engage with one another. CVMS does not have enough room to comfortably accommodate more students if both schools were to combine there. Indoor faculties and gyms. Pawalu has 2 full gyms that can be used for different activities. In addition, it has a spin bike room that can also function as a weight room. CVMS does currently not have 2 full gyms. Traffic and transportation and safety. CVMS is located directly next to a highway, making transportation difficult and dangerous. It slows down traffic and could create safety concerns, especially if more students were to be added. Increasing traffic could also lead to complaints from people from the town. Parking availability. Pawalu has 2 separate parking lots for parents and staff. CLS student safety. Now, concerning our CLS students, some have the tendency to run off, which is not their fault, but at Pawalu, it's surrounded by a neighborhood, has low traffic, meaning that students are less likely to be in danger if they wander. At CVMS, this is not the case. From the information I have been given, Pawalu also has more CLS kids than CVMS. It would be very difficult on them if they were to move schools. Traffic and distance. The Indian Hills kids and the TRE kids. If schools were to merge to CVMS, the TRE kids would need to travel around 28 miles, while Indian Hills would only be traveling 17. If we merged to Pawalu, both these areas would only have to travel 22. So overall, I believe that if we were to merge middle schools, that we should be merging into Pawalu Middle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tara Ald, and I am currently a teacher at CVMS and the 2026 Teacher of the Year finalist and foremost a parent of 3 children at MES. I want to share some concerns I have with the merging of the middle school and elementary school to the K-8 model. Going into the K-8 structure would both be in trouble for both types of learners. Students in these grades 6 through 8 are a unique stage of their lives. They are developing identity, executive functioning, and academic confidence. Middle schools are intentionally designed around these needs, not just socially, but also academically. I teach sixth grade, and there are some that are completely ready for sixth grade when they hit the doors. However, there are some that need a little bit more emotion or maturity. I tell sixth graders all the time that practicing becoming middle schoolers is their job, and that by the end of their year as sixth graders, they have been understanding transitions, gaining more confidence to be successful secondary students. Another major concern I have with the K-8 model is access to specialized secondary instruction. According to Thomas V. Fordham Institute and the SEDL Archive, only way K-8 works is if you have middle school level facilities and specialized staff to support these students. If we don't, test scores go down overall, and each pupil is actually costs more over time. Currently, our elementary schools do not have facilities needed to really give these middle school students proper elective classes, athletics, and PE to support their needs. If we do not keep our middle schools, high school sports will struggle, as many of these students will not play together until their freshman year, giving coaches a tougher time to stay competitive at the high school level. We need to create more appealing options to parents to bring students back for the long run. Making multiple options for parents to choose, especially with new open enrollment of options. For example, what Melinda was offering sounds like it might be able to bring back enrollment numbers from maybe those homeschool parents as well. I do not envy your position at all making these difficult decisions. Whatever you decide with the school consolidations is going to lead to disgruntled parents and affect students. Your decision really needs to be about what is best for the students, not looking for just the financial numbers for the short term. Merging an elemental school would risk moving an essential support system rather than improving outcomes. You need to make our district more appealing to parents to send students back here instead of homeschool. Removing middle schools will drive more parents to seek elsewhere for their child's education instead of merging students of similar grades. Thank you for your time and considering what is best for our students.
Thank you. All right, we will go and we'll take a few online.
Hi, Jeremy Height, parent and teacher within the district. First, I'd like to thank Trustee Miller for asking the key question of how much we are looking to save with this consolidation. We've finally given the public a target of about $1 million, which will mean we still have a deficit of about $4 million. And the simple question is, where is that money coming from? Well, staff, teachers, support staff, everyone who deals with your kids on a daily basis. Congrats, we saved a school. Now pack all those kids like sardines in a classroom and wonder why they're going to homeschool. We'll be right back here in 2 years with more consolidation. But this $1 million target is based on faulty numbers. I'd like to thank the district administrators for correcting their error of $16,000 per custodial position that they presented on January 7th, but that doesn't mean the rest of the numbers are any better. Cutting a single secretary too saves $81,000. Cutting another one saves only $61,000. The teacher amount isn't included in the totals presented tonight, but they are still included on the amended presentation that was posted for this board meeting. The larger issue here is trust. When numbers change without explanation, or when totals selectively include or exclude certain positions, the figures stop functioning as objective data and start feeling like estimates designed to support a predetermined narrative. Before the board is asked to make decisions with permanent consequences for students, staff, and this community, I strongly urge you to request a clear standardized methodology, one that shows the base salary, benefits, and assumptions used for each of these positions and each of these scenarios. This isn't about delaying decisions. It's about ensuring the board and the public can fully understand and trust the numbers being used to guide them. Oh, and if you are thinking about consolidation scenarios, just remember that our best rated school and only 5-star schools in the district handles grades 6 through 12 with limited space and resources on a daily basis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're going to take one more online, but you can just stay right there. Will you turn that microphone off though? Thank you.
Hi, Colin Burrows for the record. I have a son here in the school district. It's hard to believe 5 years ago, Douglas County schools were the end of the state, then COVID, then a hostile political school board, and now a financial crisis. What a disaster for our kids. Anyhow, I'd like to speak in support of maintaining a separate middle school model for grades 6 through 8, rather than combining kindergarten through 8th grade on a single campus. First, number one, it's an age-appropriate learning environment. Middle schoolers are in a completely different developmental stage than elementary students. Separate middle schools allow for instruction tailored to early adolescence, critical thinking, independence, collaboration, curriculum pacing appropriate for teens versus young people, social environments aligned with maturity levels. Two, which is really important, stronger academic specialization. Middle schools typically use subject-specific teachers, like for math, science, ELA, social studies. I've seen the math teachers at our middle school teach average students, help below average students, and help those who are very good at math, all 3 levels. If they go to a elementary school type teaching, that teacher is not trained or have the time to deal with kids who are very good or very poor at certain subjects. 3, improve student support during critical transition. A dedicated middle school is designed to support puberty and social emotional development, identity formation, study skills, and organization. Most middle schools include counselors trained for adolescent issues, advisory periods or mentoring programs, structured transitions to high school. 4, very important also, safe and more appropriate school culture. Separating age group reduces exposure of young children to teen behaviors and bad language. Bullying across large age gaps. I still remember as a kid, the middle schoolers used to cut across our grade school and tease and harass kids to scare them. They thought it was funny. I still remember being harassed by those kids. Better preparation for high school. Middle school introduces class schedules, multiple teachers, increased responsibility. The facilities are designed for learning stages such as science labs, tech classrooms, athletics, group collaboration, and spaces. Improved academic outcomes. Many studies of district reports show that middle school models often lead to higher readiness for algebra, high school science, better student engagement in upper grades, clear academic progress monitoring. In conclusion, I just want to say, what person would want to send their 6-year-old child to a school in the same space with 14-year-olds? You lose more students to homeschool. I do not want to inhibit my son's learning by skipping this critical step. Middle school is where he will grow academically, socially, and personally, meeting peers who share his interest in math, science, drama, and sports. He deserves more than 3 extra years of elementary style learning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Nalani Aguilar, and I'm an 8th grade student at Pawalu Middle School who is majorly involved with my school with me being in leadership, yearbook, and vice president in NJHS. As I speak today, I hope to not only represent myself, but those at my school who are unable to attend today. I have heard about possible discussions of a K-8 school, and I would like to discuss on why I think a K-8 school would be bad for our community and for our students. I'd like to break up this argument into 3 main points on why this won't be beneficial. So, my first point is that this will cause unnecessary exposure to younger children. Since we don't have a school specifically built for K-8, there will be no effective way in separating younger grades with older grade students, which would inevitably expose or intimidate younger students into doing harmful activities such as drugs, vaping, or drinking. And if we were to expand on a school to build a K-8 school, that would lose more money for the district. This would not only affect younger students, but also older grades, which leads me to my next point. Getting rid of middle school would also get rid of the experience that comes with middle school. The main appeal from moving from the elementary schools to middle schools is that the new 6th graders are able to gain more freedom and be able to do classes that interest them and make them excited to go to school. Making a K-8 school will have effects on electives, and by taking away electives as they are now, students will be far less excited to go to school. And by taking away school sports, it takes away the incentive to keep grades up for student athletes. My final point is that middle school is important in growing the social skills of children and to prepare them for high school. If a kindergartner had to grow up with the same consistent people, the same consistent classes, and no change all the way up to the 8th grade, they would not be nearly well prepared enough to attend the high school and would likely develop poor social skills and would likely be unable to socialize properly. While this change will not affect me directly, I hope to be a voice for the people that I care about. Thank you for your time, consideration, and effort you put into building this community and for serving our school district.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to a couple online.
Lynn, you can go ahead.
Courtney Burrows for the record. So I am speaking tonight in moving the sixth graders back into elementary schools. I work at Powaloo and I absolutely love our students. I love my admin. I love the family. I love the environment we've created to make everybody feel accepted and cared for. And most importantly, I love each and every one of the students that are there. They are inventive, curious, smart, and becoming more and more responsible. They're developing empathy, autonomy, identity, and experiencing rapid growth of mind and body. They need to be 6 through 8. Moving sixth graders back into elementary school is greatly going to affect them. You said yourself that you wanted the benefits to outweigh the disadvantages, and you only have 8 benefits on that elemental, and you have 17 disadvantages. The least restrictive, the least thing that would be for these students would be moving the elementary schools, would be consolidating elementary schools, because it would not change any curriculums, bell schedules, academic credits, advanced courses, instructional time, just to name a few. It would simply take rewriting of transportation. If you hold the 5th graders that are currently in there back and the 6th graders are now in elementary school again, that makes them feel that they are being held back. They currently in elementary school have 2 1s and 3s. They are not receiving credits. They're not moving from class to class. That is what 6th grade's all about. It's for them to learn how to function as young little adults, being responsible, moving from class to class, having multiple teachers, having multiple binders and books, and they get grades. They don't get 3s and 2s and 1s. They get grades. So you're telling me that if they go back, they're potentially going to continue to get the 3 2s and 1s, and then they automatically get shifted into 7th grade where they can become credit deficient because they're not ready. The elementary schools will not prepare these 6th graders for middle school or for high school. That is what middle school is made for. That is what Powaloo and CVMS is made for. That is what the dedicated teachers that I work with day in and day out are there for. They are licensed for 7th through 12th or 6th through 12th. They're not licensed for elementary school, and the 6th graders need to be with their peers 6, 7, and 8, period. You need to consolidate the elementary schools. You said yourself, if you consolidate elementary schools, you automatically make $2 million. Bam, solves the problem. You only need to make a million. Now you're making 2. You are digging us out by consolidating elementary schools. That is where you need to start. You need to start at the ground level and move up and quit messing with everything else. The easiest fix is to consolidate elementary schools, period, and quit trying to hurt all these other students, because you are not hurting elementary school students. All you're doing is moving them from one building to another. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take one more online.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mayanna Jury. I'm a parent of 3 at Scarcelli. I just wanted to say that I really like the idea of doing 5th grade at Powaloo, especially if you continue to move forward with combining CC Manili and Scarcelli. There's a ton of programs right now that are available to 5th graders, but it's only for those that can do really long days or for parents that can provide alternate transportation before or after school. And I love the idea that everybody, all 5th graders, would have these opportunities with the 5 to 8 model. I know all 3 of my girls would be involved in theater, band, choir, and art if it was during the school day. If you move the 6th graders back to elementary, then you take 2 years of programs away from those kids, 5th and 6th grade. This will stunt their growths in the arts going into high school, and that could be extremely detrimental for emotional well-being, test scores, etc. So I really want to stress that if you do put Scarcelli and CC together, moving the fifth graders up to Powwow would be a huge benefit to their education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Katie N., and I am the school counselor at Powwow Middle School. If you know me, you know that I absolutely love my job and what I get to do to support students and staff and families in the community on a daily basis. Working with people, especially young people, is my calling. It's my vocation. And I know that so many people in this room feel the same way, which is why so many of us are emotionally vested in what happens to and within this school district. And we do have a lot of feelings because of these tough decisions that you guys are unfortunately tasked to make that have an effect on our day-to-day lives for almost all of us, whether staff, students, or families. I'm so proud of every single person who shares their heart here in this matter. It is so important to understand the collective ideas regarding these topics. So, thank you for listening and voting and making decisions with both your hearts and your heads. There are many scenarios on the table that directly affect many of our schools, which naturally has caused angst and fear. And as a super proud employee of Powwow Middle School, I'm here representing my school tonight because that is who and what I champion and support on a daily basis. That doesn't mean any other school is bad or that we should not look at other schools. I just know where I work and who I represent. The three scenarios on the docket seem to be combining middle schools with sixth graders staying down in the elementary next school year, having fifth graders come up to make middle schools 5th through 8th, and lastly, the one that I'm going to vehemently oppose, a push to have K-8 schools. Combining middle schools definitely has its pros and cons, but we would make it work. 5th through 8th sounds scary for those fifth graders, but we would totally also make that work too. I know some of us as parents aren't ready for our babies to go off to that scary middle school land, but more often than not, those kids are ready. If you talk to elementary school teachers, that 5th grade year, that last couple months, they are so ready to come to the middle school. And yes, do we work on maturity? Do we work on all the things that they get to practice to be earning credit in middle school? Yes, that is that buffer of 6th grade where they're moving from numbered systems of 1s, 2s, and 3s to earning credits in letter grades and understanding the implications of that. With that, I want to publicly say that with 18 years of experience as both a teacher and a counselor for students pre-K through 12th grade at 3 different sites, CC Manili, Powwow, and Douglas High School, that I understand the developmental needs at each level. And there is an absolute need for the separation of elementary and middle schools, both academically and socially. I could do an entire presentation of the pros and cons of a K-8 model through peer-reviewed research and the model we would have to adopt, creating a K-8 out of financial disparity to help fix a financial crisis, and that is what I don't want to happen. Tom Phillips, the executive director of the New York State Middle School Association, states that the needs of middle school students are very different than those of elementary and high school students. Adolescents go through more changes from age 12 to 15 than any other time of life except birth to age 2. They are beginning to see their world in an egocentric way and questioning their role in it. They are beginning to fight for independence, yet still rely on outside help when involved in conflict. Thank you for your time. I know this is a tough decision, but I appreciate it, and I know you guys will do what's best for us.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'm assuming we still have more online. Okay, go to 2 more online.
Hello, Becky Goins. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm a parent and teacher at Jacks Valley Elementary School, and I just wanted to state why Pinion and Jacks should not be consolidated. I wanted to remind you that Jacks Valley should be, but is not currently, a registered attendance zone. We are in Carson City, while we are also within Douglas County, but we are not an attendance zone, and we are not receiving money that we could be receiving if we were an attendance zone. If Jacks Valley closes, we will not be able to register that area as an attendance zone, which is a loss of potential money coming in. We have a lot of new housing developments where new families could come in and then they would seek somewhere else, like in Carson City. So we need to keep Jacks Valley open so we can keep this zone registered. Multiple parents have asked me if they think Jacks Valley is closing so that they can already get a variance into Carson. Since they already work in Carson, instead of traveling down the valley farther, they can just drop their kid on their way to work in Carson. I'm not sure what it's going to take to get Jacks Valley registered as an attendance zone, but if you close Jacks Valley, you will never have that opportunity back again to register it as an attendance zone. And again, we need more money coming in. So please keep Jacks Valley open. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is James Jackson, parent of multiple Douglas County School District students. I'm calling to echo the comments of Mrs. Jackson and Mr. Zinke that I'm concerned that all of the different suggestions and different scenarios, while I understand the motivation, are beginning to become not just confusing for the people listening, but the rest of the public who are not as well tuned in. I think additionally, I'm curious as to why we're presenting a K-8 middle school option and having debate on that when materially there's going to be no budgetary effect of instituting that plan for the next school year, or frankly, for the following school year. The changes that would happen in the next school year for trying to implement a K-8 school would be the same kind of changes that we're talking about when we're consolidating middle schools, moving down sixth graders. I would really suggest that the board table any consideration of a K-8 district-wide school system for another time. We have lots of different things that we need to figure out. And right now, a majority of the public comment we've had tonight have been about the K-8 option. I imagine a majority of the comment after me will be about the K-8 option. And I'd imagine that tomorrow night's town hall meeting will be dominated by concerns of a K-8 option. I would encourage the board to consider saying, you know what, let's go ahead and table any talk of a K-8 option district-wide until next year, maybe the year after, when the savings could actually be realized, because any material changes for the next school year are really going to go hand in hand with a middle school consolidation, moving sixth grade down. So that would be what I encourage. I think we need to come up with some very clear and concise options, because it's really hard to gauge public interest and public support when everyone is coming up with new ideas every single meeting. So I respect that everybody has great ideas and we want to have new ideas, but at some point the clock is running out and we need to be a little bit more clear. Thank you.
Thank you. One more online.
Shannon, you can go ahead.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Christensen, and I'm absolutely opposed to the K-8 option. The disadvantages far outweigh the benefits, and I don't believe it will save as much money as the plan proposes because it doesn't take into account all the disappointed families that will pull their children from our district schools. I would really discourage you from choosing this option. As far as the other options, I believe the elementary school option, elementary school consolidation plan affects the least amount of people. So I'm okay with that option. But perhaps it ought to be a redistricting of all the elementary schools so it doesn't just target certain areas, and then you can more evenly spread out the numbers. I'm also okay with the option of bringing the sixth graders back to the elementary schools and consolidating the middle schools. Just like Trustee Wagstaff, I believe many parents would jump at the idea of keeping their sixth graders back for another year of innocence, but I understand that they will lose opportunities too. I really appreciate that my sixth grader can take a seventh grade advanced math class, and he wouldn't get that opportunity in elementary school. So if I had to rank the options from best to worst, I'd say 1 would be consolidating and redistricting the elementaries. 2 would be bringing back the sixth back to elementary and consolidating the middle school. And the K8 option, I won't even rank because it isn't worth considering. I know this is hard for everyone, and I appreciate all of the research that you've done. I don't envy your job, but thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Okay. Superintendent Alvarado and ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Julie Gillen, and I'm a proud 6th and 7th grade science teacher at Carson Valley Middle School. I'm here to voice serious social, emotional, and academic concerns regarding the proposed plan to combine elementary and middle school students in the K-8 model, also as well as many other parties are stating. And I also want to talk about the possibility of reducing the 6th grade down and consolidating only into one middle school as well. Based on my years of teaching both middle school and elementary school students, I offer these 3 reasons for consideration. Developmental mismatch. Middle school is a period of rapid cognitive and emotional shifting. Sharing a building where a single hallway is the only barrier between 5-year-olds and 14-year-olds creates a profound stage environment misfit, forcing vastly different developmental worlds into unsafe proximity, resulting in inappropriate and very disruptive behaviors, possibly. Erosion of academic rigor and safe space. Middle school serves as a vital bridge transitioning students from the one teacher loving model to a multi-teacher, high responsibility, high engagement environment. A shared facility creates a watered down middle school culture that fails to challenge students, leaving them socially and academically unprepared for high school transition. This will also lead to a reduction in critical academic programming, which was just discussed by a parent that just phoned in, including advanced math, ELA tracks, while also stripping away the scaffolding classes necessary for our students with additional needs who tend to get less talking about. Loss of academic programs and athletics. Dismantling the middle school environment strips students of vital leadership, cultural, and athletic opportunities. From NJHS, ceramics, leadership, band, choir, languages, and clubs. Furthermore, losing dedicated athletic facilities such as double gyms, tracks, and access to developmentally appropriate library resources undermines the very programs that build student confidence. Without these essentials, we're failing to provide the foundation required for successful transition into high school and future career readiness. Beyond my professional observations, my students have their own voices, and I brought a collection of letters written by my middle school students communicating their personal concerns about this change. And I have 2 to share. Dear school board, I believe that it's inappropriate to put middle schoolers back to the elementary environment. That's 5-year-olds and 14-year-olds of the same school together. In addition, I have another letter. I consider myself a smart student and advanced 8th grade class in leadership as a 7th grader. However, our schools were to regress back to the K-8 model. These classes and programs that support me and others will be ripped away. Taking elementary experience away from us, we would not be ready for high school and college. I ask you, the board, to please, as also stated, to take off the K-8 model off of consideration at all. And I'm also concerned about the consolidation of both middle schools together. Please keep both schools open and keep our opportunities for our students alive as well. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to 2 online.
Good evening. My name is Molly Reagan. I am a parent, a volunteer, and a staff member of DCSD. I don't believe that any consolidation of schools, if there wasn't a financial crisis, would be on the table. And unfortunately, no, we cannot make everyone happy. But having 2 elementary schools at both Pinion and Scarcelli, we would be eliminating room for our gifted and talented program, our speech teacher, our occupational therapist, and our CLS programs. I have a hard time believing that our middle school electives are more important than these programs. At Pinion, we currently have 7 students that participate in band. Electives cannot outweigh the more serious programs for both high and low students that are being affected by them. As a parent, I would love to see the K through 6 option. I can personally attest to having family and friends who have gone through K through 8, as well as K through 12 schools, and thrived in environments that provided an appropriate supervision and separation of students in age-appropriate groups. There are currently around 6,000 public schools that offer a K through 8 program nationwide, so the model obviously works. I would like to know if you are taking into consideration the amount of families that we will lose to homeschool, private school, and Carson City when the consolidation of elementary schools happens. As a person who works with parents on a daily basis, I can tell you that parents are not going to stay for band and art when their kids are in a school of over 500 students. They will move to other options. As a parent, I believe that a K through 6 or a K through 8 model offers an environment with more structure and stability and less stress to the families and classrooms, teachers and students, as well as limiting behavioral issues that can be helped with daily. Small changes such as letter grades can be adapted to easily in most schools with no change to the families or students. 5th and 4th grade students are already transitioning through different classes, and we could accommodate that easily on a different level. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go one more online.
Our turn. Hi, can you hear us?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, so there's 2 of us. Have a 6th grader here from CVMS who wants to speak, and then if I could speak next.
All right. Hello, my name is Radley, and I am a 6th grade student at Carson Valley Middle School. I'm calling to say that I think moving students from K-8 elementary schools is a bad idea for kids. If I was a kid at elementary school and there were 7th and 8th graders, I would be scared and intimidated. I think kids would start vaping at a younger age, and it would lower the quality of our schools. There would be a 9-year age difference between the youngest and oldest kids, which is too much. Students would lose the chance to mature, and they would be unprepared for high school. Kids really look forward to middle school, and it would be devastating to take that away. We love Carson Valley Middle School because we get the chance to make new friends, do sports like cross country, track, volleyball, and basketball. And we get to do clubs and electives. Please do not take those away from future students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, this is Lynn Faulkner for the record. I'm calling to speak out against moving the 6th grade back down to elementary school. I'm a retired teacher of 30 years at CVMS, and now I'm a substitute teacher and a grandparent of a 6th grader at CVMS. The 6th graders love being there, and they love all the opportunities that they have. The athletics and elective opportunities they have in middle school are not available in elementary school. As you just heard, my grandson ran cross country. He played on the basketball team. He plans to participate in track and field as well. The 6th graders can take music, art, and PE, and they can do it on a daily basis instead of just once a week. And students that need advanced math have access to that. When I substitute in the 6th grade classes, I'm in awe of how well adjusted, enthusiastic, and full of school spirit they are. If you haven't visited a 6th grade classroom lately, please do so. Keeping both middle schools open means that twice as many students can participate in basketball and volleyball, and all the wonderful rivalries between the 2 schools can continue. If middle school consolidation is chosen by the board, then I strongly recommend that CVMS be the location for that school. We risk losing students in the North County to Carson Middle School if those students are expected to travel all the way down to Powaloo Middle School. CVMS is growing in enrollment, so why would we close it? The board needs to make sure their decision doesn't contribute to more families leaving our district. Thank you so much.
Can I speak?
Thank you.
No.
Or not?
That's it.
Go ahead, Ms. Carter.
Sorry, just waiting for my partner. Okay. My name is Amy Carter. I am the proud principal at Powaloo Middle School, and I'm also a parent of a junior. You could introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, I'm Jen Worthington. I'm the vice principal at Powaloo Middle School, and I have a senior this year.
All right, first I would like to start with our unique population of students and communities supporting it. Our community is rooted in hard work, perseverance, and pride in skilled professions that are essential to our local economy and society as a whole. Many families contribute through construction, plumbing, electrical work, and other blue-collar and technical careers, and our students often follow those pathways with determination and purpose. It is vital that our school continues to offer strong career and technical education, CTE opportunities at that middle school level that would honor these strengths and prepare students for meaningful, sustainable careers. While a four-year university is one post-high school option, is not the only measure of success. CTE, like electives, provides students with hands-on learning and industry-related relevant skills and clear pathways to certification, apprenticeships, and continued education in the future. Preserving these opportunities allows us to meet middle school students where they are, challenge them to grow, and ensure they promote to the next level with career pathways in order to be prepared for life beyond high school. Maintaining these programs is about recognizing multiple pathways to success and committing to an equitable education that serves all students. We recently had a preview day for our 8th grade students in which they were able to take CTE classes at DHS after school. We have 131 8th graders, and they signed up for 75 sessions, which is a testament to the drive that these students have to pursue CTE classes and careers. Powaloo not only has students interested in these classes, but we also have electives that are creating pathways for elementary students. Over the 2 years that I've been at Powaloo, partnerships with both CC Manili and Scarcelli have grown. Band, Ceramics, Foods, and our Green Screen Talk Show have worked with students to train them and guide them to understand the importance of hands-on learning that can lead to possible career opportunities. If our schools are combined or our middle schools are slowly shut down altogether, these career pathways will no longer be in existence for students in our Ranchos neighborhood. Yes, it is stated in the presentation that it's a myth that middle school students won't have electives. They will, but they will not be CTE-like opportunities with green architecture, food, ceramics, design and modeling, drama, choir, yearbook, and band that prepare them for high school. These electives are opportunities that prepare them for high school. Elementary schools do not have the capability or current capacity in their facilities to allow for these electives at their sites, making students unprepared for their future. We also want to say that we have recently changed our schedule this year to become more aligned with CVMS, and we have had discussions about having Spanish at our site in the future. We are working with HR to pursue those avenues, just so everyone knows, because that's come up the last 2 times. Okay, I am done. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it off to my partner for the next 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. In the DCSD strategic plan, which was revised this past school year, under goal number 1 for student success and opportunity access, objective 3 is to increase the student preparation for college and career pathways, in which multiple action steps are all about increasing student opportunities with CTE. Action step number 1 provides and expands the workplace opportunities for all students. Action step number 3 increases opportunities for career exploration for all students. Action step number 6 expands career and technical education electives at the middle school level. Action step number 7 increases career and technical education offerings through the use of comprehensive local needs assessments. Finally, action step number 8 supports students in the development of individualized education pathways aligned to their life aspirations. That was 5 of 8 action steps that directly impacts our middle school students and their much needed opportunity to explore educational pathways that fit their future. Yes, there are K-8 schools around, but they are in communities like Smith Valley with 185 students between K through 12. There's also Colville, which Ms. Carter's husband graduated from, with 17 total students. So, our district is much larger than those communities, and it would not be wise to keep students in an elementary setting when they are ready to move forward, to become independent young adults. We're not a small town. The middle school model is needed to turn kids into the things they base the rest of their lives on. If we keep students in the elementary school, it will stunt their academic and social growth. With that being said, even though we use the DCSD progressive discipline policy with many restorative justice practices, being of a certain age, middle school students exhibit behaviors that are testing boundaries. They are discussing mature topics in the hallways with friends. And they are experimenting to discover things they may not want to be around or are wanting to be around. These behaviors are not something that I would want to have my young child exposed to. Our elementary schools are not built with different hallways, pods, or areas for students to stay separated. Almost every school has one MPR, which would house all students. That's 9 grade levels if you go to a K-8 model for lunches, all while trying to teach PE. This schedule would not work out. Trust me, I do the schedule. And so currently in both of our middle schools, we have outside seating, which our students use daily, rain, wind, shine, or snow. There is not space for students to have the same flexibility in the elementary schools. We understand that consolidating and then closing middle school sounds very efficient, as you wouldn't have to consolidate again for potentially 10 more years. But it is not in the best interest of our students to combine to the elementary and middle schools. Again, thank you for listening, giving us your time, and allowing us to speak about Paualu community and the unique opportunities available at middle schools.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to 2 online.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't think anyone can hear me.
It was on the TV a second ago.
Oh. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. My comment is really simple. Oh, sorry. This is Colleen Julian. I'm a parent, a substitute teacher here in the district, and also a volunteer. It's obviously that some variation of consolidation will happen. The way I understand this is that the ultimate goal is to get to net zero by the end of 2027, and that we are looking at a possible 6.9 million deficit if nothing is done by the end of 2027. However, the max savings we are talking about regarding consolidation is $2.5 million during that year. At the end of all these talks on February 3rd, which has been when we have been told a decision will be made, where is the other 4.5 million coming from? I've asked the same question in multiple comments and in emails, and it's yet to be answered. How much more are our children going to lose after these consolidations to make up the additional 4.5 million? Thank you.
Thank you.
You had 2 minutes.
Caller on the phone, you can go ahead. Jen, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hello. My name is Jen Kelly. I'm a proud teacher at Jacks Valley Elementary, a former student of Douglas County, and I'm also a parent of 2 students attending CVMS in Douglas High School. I'd like to first address Trustee Zinke's comment regarding having 24 classrooms fitting 4 classes per grades kindergarten through 5th. Our elementary schools house more than K through 5. Each elementary school has either a pre-K program or CLS program. Every time the board speaks of elementary, they only refer to K through 5, when DCSD provides pre-K services to over 120 students. Jason Reed, principal of Pinion Hills Elementary, stated at the January 7th school board meeting that if consolidated, his building cannot house more than K through 5, with no room for pre-K, resource room for special education, speech pathologists, reading specialists, art, or music. I invited Mr. Zinke, along with other board members, to come visit our schools to truly see the needs of our students by talking to the teachers. Thank you to Mrs. Wagstaff for taking the time to come and talk to me and see what my 40 pre-K students need. Consolidating Jacks Valley Elementary and Pinion Hills will hurt families and will guarantee a drop in enrollment for our North Valley students, which is not what the district needs. As stated earlier, Jacks Valley has the potential to become a 4th attendance zone for the district, which would bring in more money. Please do not consider the option of closing Jacks Valley. Secondly, as a parent of a CVMS student who rides the bus from Jacks Valley, I am concerned about the amount of time he would be spending on the bus each day if CVMS was consolidated into Powaloo. CVMS is centrally located, and my son wouldn't have to be on the bus for 90 minutes one way. And I have also heard from many parents that would pull their students out of DCSD if they had to get their North Valley students to Powaloo. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Go ahead. You just turned it off. It's okay.
My name is, for the record, my name is Tasha Hamilton. I am currently a social worker for the district. I also am a licensed clinical social worker for the state and run 2 different private practices and small businesses outside. So I get what you guys are trying to do, trying to make, it's a business. You're running a business. You got to make the money. That all makes sense. I was not going to talk, and I'm not going to read what I had wrote because there was a lot of people that already presented a lot of this information on the K through 8 thing. However, when things were being presented, it brought up some really good points. Mr. Alvarado said that he has the data for you and some of the sites. If you need more, let me know because I got a whole string of them for both sides. First thing you should know, key element, and he already said it, I just don't want you to lose sight of this. It has worked, okay? It has worked in 5 areas, all urban, low income, where they were allowed to put lots of extra money, design the building, and teach the staff to do just that, K through 8. It has not worked and has failed where they tried to do it to save money. So every single urban, rural area that they tried to do it in just to save money, it failed. So look more into the data. On that note, it does all of what he said when it is, when everybody is focused on those certain areas and you have the building and the financial stuff and you're teaching the staff how to do it, it does reduce the bullying and it does all of those things. Without that, it does not do that. It creates more. So on that note, all of the data only covers K through 4 for the transitions. The transitions from 5, 6, 7, and 8, the data for it actually shows and improves when you have all 4 of those grades together. They have the numbers for their academic decline is less if they are together. So if you pull out the data and actually look at your different options, it might make sense. I don't like the 5th graders up because I have also had 2 kids come through this school. I have a current middle schooler and 2 graduated ones, so I get it. Heartstrings, mama, I wouldn't want my 5th grader up. But we do really segregate the 6th graders and they really do well. It's weird, but they drive me crazy. If you guys have any questions for me later, thanks. Here I go. Bye.
Thank you. Do we still have more online? We have 2 more online. Okay, let's take one online and then we'll come back to Ms. Laca. Okay.
Stephanie, you can go ahead. Penelope, you can go ahead.
You got a small break.
All right, well.
I'm Amanda Lacka. I am a parent in the district as well as a teacher. I just wanted to first say, kind of echoing what's been talked about, that middle school has a lot of unique opportunities for students that are not afforded at elementary. We talked about electives, daily music, daily PE class, outdoor science, sports medicine, co-curriculars like yearbook, leadership, and of course athletics. It sounds like maybe we're hopefully taking the elemental off the table, but I just want to point out that although it's worked in other places, we are not so small that this makes sense. To have a valley with 6 elemental schools and then send all of those unprepared 8th graders up to Douglas High School as freshmen just seems illogical. And students would ultimately be the one to pay the price in that case. But I also wanted to talk about the middle school consolidation. I'm really troubled by the lost opportunities that would befall our students. Numerous studies have shown that students have higher GPAs, better attendance, and are more likely to aspire to a college education and have improved mental health when they are connected to their school through athletics, electives, and clubs. By consolidating schools, the board would be cutting in half the number of students that can make the volleyball team. I think there's like 100 per school of girls that try out, just as an example. The basketball team, etc. It cuts in half the number of students who get to be in leadership class, yearbook, or culinary, to name a few. There's only one culinary classroom. We can't just add sections. These are needs that elementary students simply do not have, so I think that consolidating elementary should still be on the table. Not that I want to take away from, the heritage and the history there, but it would not have the same detrimental consequences for elementary students that it would have for middle school students. Finally, just a few props for CVMS because I was a student there myself. I just want to point out, as other people have, the favorable location. In addition to bus rides for students that want to just go to school, I believe you would see a drop in extracurricular and after school activities and less community involvement. If parents were to drive all the way from Jacks Valley, Sunridge, Genoa down to Powaloo to pick up their kid from practice, I don't know that they would be able to do a sports team or able to stay for a band or choir performance. We talked about North parents probably taking their kids out. I know several people who have said that because of the bus ride being too long. It sounds like CVMS has higher capacity based on the numbers that I believe I heard earlier. We've recently done some major renovations and improvements. We have updated our HVAC. We have a single point of entry. We got new carpet over the summer. And finally, where am I? The upkeep that the school does need will be covered through a fund that is healthy, the Capital Improvements Fund. So yay, go Tigers at CVMS and Douglas, but CVMS.
Thank you. Are callers online still there and available?
Penelope, you can go ahead. Lynn, you can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Lenara Crane. I am a 6th grade student at Powaloo Middle School. I disagree with the combination of K through 8th. I feel that the stress of being mature enough to understand the subjects that the older students socialize about should not fall to the younger grade levels. They deserve to learn the subject in a more natural time. I also feel that the 5th graders are able to understand more than the younger ones, since they are coming into a more mature lifestyle through early learnings and opportunities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have one more online?
Shannon, you can go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. My name is Shannon for the record. I want to point out this is an
Please make sure you state your full name for the record.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Did you my name is Shannon for the record.
What's your last name?
Oh, Lemaistra.
Thank you.
This is an
Go ahead.
extremely hard decision because elementary schools and middle schools, as I've heard, have different cultures. But unfortunately, the board is put in a position to make the harder decisions. You have made it evidently aware that we are in a crisis, not because only Nevada changed its guideline per pupil funding, but also enrollment. One of the biggest things that drives enrollment in any types of district settings is having elementary schools, and it is having those pre-K opportunities. Once you start consolidating elementary schools, as people have presented the numbers, you will lose those opportunities for their kids in that pre-education and get them into your schools. You will lose more to homeschooling with the elementary numbers. Also, we finally received that number of that million. By consolidating the middle schools, we know from the numbers listed on the presentation that consolidating the middle schools would hit that $1 million and kickstart us into the goals that we need to reach. I understand that we have lost a lot of culture and we've caused a lot of rift in the different communities. But I think what makes Douglas so strong is knowing that you guys have presented that we wouldn't lose those extracurriculars, that we could in fact fund more into it with it being in one school. Again, you guys are in an incredibly hard decision. Frankie, you have done a great job at presenting the numbers already to the community by consolidating the middle schools and potentially keeping those elementary schools open to encourage more enrollment and those pre-educational opportunities to get the kids back in our district is unfortunately what we need. And I just wanted to say that opinion. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Board of Trustees. For the record, I am Andrew Fromdahl, principal at Minden Elementary School, and I'm speaking today to share about facility considerations and capacities with the different proposals being discussed. Facility capacity and utilization has been highlighted with the different scenarios the past few months. Minden Elementary currently has a 76% capacity utilization. This percentage is due to two factors: the highest elementary school enrollment, but in the smallest building footprint. As principal, I look at these proposals and consider the maximum capacity that fits students, but I also consider what I call an optimal capacity that fits students and staff and allows for special space usages or programming. For example, our gifted talented class is so large that it requires a full-size classroom, even though it's only 1 day per week. Our pre-K program is approaching 50 students and utilizes a regular classroom and 2 smaller rooms to support the program for our staff and students. We also have many specialists who support students in different locations across the building. The first scenario of the current 5th grade students remaining at elementary school to become next year's 6th graders would fit within our optimal school capacity. However, additional scenarios of 7th grade at the elementary level would max out our student capacity and exceed what I deem to be the building's optimal capacity. The addition of 8th grade would exceed Minden's building capacity and far exceed my optimal capacity. These calculations consider regular classroom space and equipment only. It does not take into account specialized spaces that middle school students currently utilize for elective classes with specialized equipment or larger learning spaces such as culinary, fine arts, career technical education, or performing arts. We sadly just do not have these rooms or equipment at the elementary level. Lastly, the Valley Elementary Schools triply use the multipurpose room for breakfast, then PE, then lunch, then back to PE. I mean, that's why it's called the multipurpose room, but there's a lot of reset when we do that. The middle schools have separate gym and cafeteria facilities. 4 of the 6 Valley Elementary Schools have an MPR floor that's smaller than a regulation-sized basketball court, and require complete use for lunch. As elementary enrollment increases, or if elementary enrollment increased, scheduling challenges and program limitations would increase in our sole multipurpose room. In summary, based on building layouts, capacities, room usages, and special classroom equipment for electives, I urge caution for considerations that would expand elementary school grade levels beyond the 6th grade. Thank you for your time and your efforts to support our district. These are very complicated scenarios and difficult considerations, and I appreciate your dedication to our schools and communicating with us to gain insight and build background in making these decisions. I have 10 seconds left, and I'm going to give a shout out to my 4 former students who have participated in public comment tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I already signed up, I'm okay. Okay, good. Marty Swisher, Gardnerville resident. I want to talk about the past, the present, and the future. So if you go back historically in Douglas County, I arrived here in 1994. And at that time, we had year-round elementary schools. We had 6-8 middle schools. And the high school was a 9-12. But in 94, they moved the freshmen down to the middle school and bumped the 6th graders back to the elementary schools. And all of the changes from that time forward that I've seen have all been about capacity. Now we're talking about finances. But we have changed in this district a number of times due to the capacity of our facilities, and the staff has made it work. So whatever decision you make, I believe ultimately is going to work because the staff will make it work. Secondly, the present. Our current configuration, I think, works very well. Now, many of our elementary schools are under capacity, and you know that. But I think by closing the schools on the south and the north and not making any other considerations, that might be short-sighted. Because I think what Ms. Knighting has suggested might be one of the best answers in the room tonight. And it seems like we're not giving it its due. It would have the least impact on the middle schools and concurrently on the high school because you would stay with the same program going into the middle schools. It would have no impact on the 6 other elementary schools in our school district. So as I understand it, you would consolidate probably C.C. Manili into Scarcelli. You would move the 5th graders from Scarcelli and Manili over to a pod in Powaloo, and then all the other programs run the same as they have. And the 5th graders that are going over there are not going to be cheated because they're going to actually come to school at the same time as the other elementary school kids probably do. They will start at a later time than the other kids. You can make these things work. So I would really advocate for you to consider that and put that out to the public. Lastly, the future. When you're finished with this decision, you're going to have to look at rezoning. You're going to have to look at potentially closing more schools, especially as enrollment drops. So this is not finished. If you move the 6th graders from the middle schools back, I think those decisions get harder for you, especially if you take the K-8 option off the table, which I think is pretty clear. It's probably going to come off the table. So having said that, I appreciate everyone who's commented. I appreciate the public and their input. I seriously think you should consider Mrs. Knighting's suggestion and give it time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, for the record, my name is Brian Dempsey. Full disclosure, I am on the Board of Equalization and the Airport Advisory Committee also. I do not speak on their behalf. I'm here as a private citizen. So over the last few weeks, you guys have discussed a lot about consolidation, and I understand our issue here is a financial crisis. And for you guys, you don't generate revenue. So my question is there another option? What if there was a way to generate that $8 million that we need? Would that just take consolidation off the table, or would you guys keep considering it? I grew up in a household that was a lot of, we can't afford it. And my mindset as an adult was not that we can't afford it, but how can we afford it? And if there's options on that table that we haven't looked at yet, and I know it's coming down to it, but I think as community leaders, it's our job to come up with creative ideas to save our community, to save our schools, to save our children, to save people's jobs. And what I'm asking for is a chance next week, before you guys let the wrecking ball swing, just a chance to give a presentation in front of the board that could potentially solve all of our problems. And not just short term, but in the long term. And if you guys can give us that, and you can give my group that little bit of a chance to give a presentation in front of you guys, I think it could help. And I think your legacy is going to be consolidation of schools. And that's what people are going to remember you guys for. And that's what our voters are going to remember you guys for. And we elected you guys to do a job, and it's always a hard job. Our elected officials always have to make hard decisions. And I understand this. But before you make that decision, can you give us the opportunity to make a presentation in front of you guys next week? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Danita Anderson. I have been a science teacher at Powalloo for 25 years, so this is my 26th year at Powalloo. So I have a lot of heart for Powalloo. I also currently have a 7th grade student at Powalloo. And I want to first I got a lot I cut out of mine, but my student was ready for 6th grade. He was ready for the challenge. And I really appreciate that there was the opportunity for him to attend middle school and 6th grade there. The other thing that I really think benefits at a 6th, 7th, 8th that hasn't been is you have a choice of the type of teacher you hire with either a K-8 endorsement or a 7-12 endorsement. And we are lucky enough that we have several 7-12 endorsed teachers, which means they are academically strong. And that really improves the academics for all students. So because with state law, you can actually have 7-12 teach academics for a 6th grade too, if you need to. So I just think that having 6th, 7th, 8th academically really improves our schools. And if you look at our scores, we need some improvement and some changes. And I think some of the things that are happening academically, starting in 6th grade with them in the transition year, we are really working to improve our test scores. And it really helps to have our 6th graders at that facility right now. So I really think supporting 2 middle schools, just like Amanda Lacka said, competition is healthy. It is great having 2 middle schools. It is healthy competition. So I think having 2 middle schools is ideal for a community this size because we are not rural. I grew up in Montana. This is not a rural community. So I think 2 middle schools is very healthy. And I don't know where I was going. Oh, Powalloo. If we're going to get into it, I better do my 2 cents about Powalloo. Powalloo, every person that leaves Powalloo, they leave with our heart on their sleeve because we care about our kids. We nurture our kids. I always say, those city folk, they should come out to the country, come out to the fresh air at Powalloo. We have open spaces. It is a wonderful facility. That's not where I want to go, but I got to put my 2 cents in for Powalloo. Go Panthers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Maxine Cahill. I feel like we're spending so much time together that we should really be a family here. And I really see that as our school district, regardless of what grade level these children are in. But I think something that hasn't had enough spoken to it this evening, and I'm not very familiar with still at this point, I'm 2 years removed from it, is the pre-K classes. The pre-K classes are phenomenal. My youngest son went through the pre-K class and he was selected to attend because of his speech delay, incredible speech delay. The teachers that were there and the assistance that he received help him be prepared for kindergarten. I personally believe it would be an incredible disservice for the pre-K to be taken away. And so as we move forward with tomorrow to understand what this is going to further look like, personally, and I don't even have a pre-K-er, I'll never have a pre-K-er again. But personally, I would love to understand what's going to happen to those children for next year and the years to come, because the resources provided were literally an answered prayer for my son who had behavioral issues, who now is perfectly integrated into his first grade class. So thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Do we have any more online? All right, seeing as there is no more, oh, sorry, I spoke too soon. In my defense, you were out of my
I was out of
peripheral
sight.
vision.
I was. So Leslie Peters, Assistant Director of Education Services, and I have been listening and taking all this in tonight. Wanted to share a couple perspectives from my own personal experience as administrator and teacher in Lyon County School District for 25 years. My third year of teaching, I moved from third grade at an elementary school to Silver Stage Middle School, where I was a fifth grade teacher, 5'8". There were definitely some challenges with that, but my students had a lot of opportunities that would not have been afforded to them if they were at the elementary school level. And we had a 5th, 6th grade hall, and we had a 7th and 8th grade hall. Fast forward in my career, I ended up at Dayton Intermediate School as an assistant principal. My first year, we were 6th, 7th, and 8th. That was a lot of hormone rodeo going on with 6th graders there. And the following year, they moved 6th grade back down. And 2 years after that, I became the principal at Dayton Elementary School of a pre-K through 6th grade school. And while I was at the middle school, it seemed like a breath of fresh air to have 6th grade move back down. We had a lot of students, and that definitely taking an entire grade level and putting them back in 3 schools made my job easier. But then as I transitioned to the elementary school as the principal and 6th grade was there, I did realize the opportunities that they then were missing out on as 6th graders. And I was lucky enough that my elementary school was right next to the middle school. So my students did have the opportunity to be dropped off at the middle school and then walk to school after band. That was first period. And our 6th grade students in Dayton, mine could walk back for cross country and track, and the other students could be bused. But I definitely did see how they did miss out on things. And so to Trustee Knighting's suggestion of perhaps looking at consolidating the south end, putting Scarcelli and CC together. I know nobody wants to have to make these decisions, but we have to make some decisions, right? Time's ticking, and people have said that tonight. That might be one of the best options, is CC and Scarcelli consolidated, make Pawalua 5'8", allow those students to have some of those opportunities. And for parents that are worried about their kids, I would say, like Mrs. M did, the counselor at Pawalua, they will be okay. They will thrive. And I was also on a call today with Nevada Department of Education for college and career readiness. There's a whole middle school program. And so I think that those are opportunities that we need to be bringing down to 6th grade at the middle school, and it wouldn't hurt fifth graders either to be on that path. So I just wanted to share a little perspective from teaching 5th graders in middle school, and then being at a middle school where 6th graders were and then moved down. I've kind of seen the gamut of what's been talked about tonight, and I have I did my student teaching at Smith Valley in a K-8, K-12, and like Mrs. Carter said tonight, less than 200 students in 3 very different buildings. So I do think that that probably is something that we want to maybe not consider as an option. But I do like Mrs. Knighting's option for that consolidation in the south end. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any more online? Okay. Then we will close public comment at this time. And bring it back to the board for any further discussion. Questions?
Before the board discusses, can I share some additional topics for you to consider in your decision making?
Yes.
Okay. So the district's declining enrollment. We're declining at the lowest grade levels. We have high school grade levels of the high 300s, close to 400. We're bringing in kinder grade levels at just under 300, about 270. And right now, in the future, we have to monitor our average decline on an annual basis. No matter what decision is made now, if we face 2 more years of decline of 166 or greater, we have to figure out what we're going to do next in that second year. So this is not the last consolidation decision that the board may consider. So I'm just making you aware of that. Attendance area adjustments provided by the PCFP. There's currently no application process identified by the Nevada Department of Education. They are working with the governor's office to ensure that they both agree on that application that would be submitted to the Commission on School Funding. So we are in limbo trying to gain a 4th attendance area for Jacks Valley, which technically has a Carson City address. There's also a stipulation in that provision that says that that school needs to be 20 miles away from the district office. Currently, it's just over 16 miles. So once an application is created, they may not even review it if the district office remains less than 20 miles away from Jacks Valley. Just something for you to know. The PCFP has provisions that say districts need to be considering redistricting boundaries on an annual basis. Nevada Department of Ed says you should have been doing this work at the time PCFP was enacted. All districts were advised to look at the boundaries. Not all districts did. Not all districts changed their boundaries. And then in terms of all the budget reductions, that plan will be submitted to the Department of Taxation on February 15th. We will issue a Did You Know message around that plan. It's just over 30 pages, and it will provide a summary of all the reductions being made in order to capture our deficit. And many of you have seen that in draft form already. It's not a board action document. It's just a document we submit to them.
So how would we, from where we're at, looking at all of our options, do we need, if we were to do this, vote on eliminating a K-8 if we chose to? Eliminating that scenario.
The earlier the board takes action to eliminate, the less stress and anxiety our community faces. I think
Okay.
it's important if the board is considering eliminating an option tonight, then you make that part of your motion.
So it would just need to be part of our motion in what moves forward and what gets eliminated.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Knighting.
To me, we kind of have, I think, 2 viable options. I do not think K through 8 is a viable option for our district, and I would be in favor of eliminating that and to be a suggestion. I would say our 2 options are merging the elementaries in the ranchos into one elementary or merging the middle schools. I think those are the 2 options that should go on to the town hall. I mean, obviously there's one that but those I think are the 2 viable options here. So
would you be eliminating the north end consolidations as well?
I think if you merged the elementaries in the ranchos, the other one could serve as as a pre-K, and the district office could also be moved there, which would give us the opportunity to have that additional zone because it would be far enough away. And I think it would help eliminate some of the pre-K, maybe that Minden, if they can't accommodate all of it, we would have a larger facility for pre-K in one of those Rancho schools. So I would say that I would be in favor of eliminating the option to do the North schools right now and focus on one of those two options.
Ms. Miller?
So would moving the district office to potentially the CC site be over the 20 miles?
It adds just over 6 miles. It would be over.
What would be the distance from TRE? Because that is also a rural area and that should be considered as another attendance zone, just like Zephyr and Watell is, with how far removed from everybody they are.
Good question. There's no school facility in TRE. That provision requires to have a school facility in that area.
Okay. Good to know. Okay.
Ms. Jansen?
I find myself agreeing with Ms. Knighting. I think those are the two best possible scenarios, and eliminating the North in our discussion.
And the K-8?
Gone. It's
Okay.
gone from the discussion.
All right. Mr. Zinke? Are you still with us?
Yeah, of course. I also think we have 4 perfect scenarios here: eliminating the K through 8, eliminating the North area as a consolidation consideration, consolidating the potential of consolidating the elementary schools in the Ranchos and or the middle schools. So yeah, I think it's pretty clear.
Ms. Jackson?
I would agree. I think that those are the 2 viable options. I did just want to comment and just say how grateful I am for everyone that's commenting, that's sharing their ideas with us. I can speak for myself, and I don't know if the other board members feel the same way, but I definitely don't have the answer. And so I'll start thinking one direction, oh, maybe this is a good idea. And so I'm loving all the input and to hear how it's going to affect families and how it's going to affect teachers. And so I just want to say thank you for all being involved in this and helping us to get all the information so that we can make the best decision. I also want to say that, man, when I go to our schools, I've been around all of them. They're all thriving. They're all doing great. So I just want to comment that whatever we decide, whatever schools we consolidate and whatever school we are no longer going to use, that has nothing to do with the success of the school, because I think all of our schools are doing great right now. But it just comes down to, as our numbers get smaller, and even more than the financial aspect, as our numbers get smaller, it's just not feasible to keep so many schools open when they're all going to start getting under 50 and 40% capacity. And so just as Superintendent Alvarado said, this is going to be continuing, and we're going to have to keep doing more schools. But I believe these are the 2 best scenarios to start looking at for the first one.
You look like you're thinking and
I mean, I threw out the K-8 because I felt that we needed to do due diligence. I didn't want the state to come back and say, you didn't look at all the scenarios. It wasn't necessarily a viable option when I threw it out. I just felt that we needed to make sure we didn't leave anything on the table for the state to come back and say, you didn't do your job, we're taking over. And I want the public to understand that. It's good that the numbers kind of backed that feeling. So I agree with that. I just, like I said, I wanted to make sure we did due diligence. And it's great that the community has come out. I've read all the emails. I've tried to respond to all the emails that I've gotten in regards to all of the consolidation scenarios. We're dealing with a very difficult situation. So hearing all of the community input is great, but we're trying to find a solution at the end of the day. And that's the one thing that I think our community needs to understand. Like, we don't have all the answers, and that's why we're looking at all these options. So I agree. I think we should eliminate a K-8 right now. That doesn't mean that in the future it's not, because we do have declining enrollment, but at this time, this possible, section that we're at, we look at the South elementary schools and the middle schools.
I think we're ready to, if someone is brave enough to make a motion for scenarios to, for Mr. Alvarado to take to our town hall tomorrow night.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we remove the consideration of K through 8 and the consolidation of our North elementary schools, and that Mr. Alvarado takes to the town hall tomorrow the merging of the 2 Rancho elementary schools and the merging of the 2 middle schools.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Knighting and a second by Ms. Miller. Any further questions or comments from the board? All right. Then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So,
As we monitor declining enrollment moving forward, and if we're proactive, we may have the luxury of doing a phased consolidation where we stop accepting, kindergarten, and then let the grade levels phase up before the final consolidation, just to make you aware of that. I believe that's our meeting.
I believe so. All right. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.